Return to VIDEOTECH.
Okay, we're back again for a new episode of Return to VIDEOTECH. I'm Keith, and with me, as always, is my buddy Matt. How's it going, dude?
I feel good. I feel better that we're getting a little bit of a cadence going with the show and, trying to stick to something. I just feel like if you're going to do it, just try to stick with it and don't let these giant gaps happen in between shows.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, this past Friday was Friday the 13th, and I was like, well, apropos for us would be to do like a Friday the 13th episode 2 days later. And I was like, no, that would be way too soon. Our Friday
No.
the 13th episode has to come out in like 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, scheduling wise, we have been not consistent as far as recordings go. But I'm having fun.
Absolutely.
And this is another kind of special episode. I feel like we've said this is a special episode for the last 3 in a row, but normally we talk about like movies that have still been in the shrink wrap as one of our segments, but for this episode, quick tease, we're gonna kill that segment and we're gonna give some recommendations for Criterion Collection movies because the sale is coming up. So if you're a Criterion collector and you listen to this show, we got some recommendations coming.
Okay, not to completely embarrass myself, but when you say the sale is coming up, is it the Barnes & Noble Criterion sale or the website 24-hour flash sale?
It's the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale, which I believe starts like the first week of July.
I knew there was one over the summer, and I've participated in it many years over, but normally it's Zach like texting me to be like, hey, Barnes & Noble sale is going on. Like, I don't actually track it, so...
Yeah, I just know it's July and November usually at
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble. The flash sales, I don't really know when they happen. I don't know if they have a set time.
I think there's one usually in February, but the day is a surprise, and then I think sometimes they'll just do a random surprise one.
Yeah.
Do you
I
have
don't really
anything?
buy. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you if you have anything that you're like waiting for the sale for.
I mean, there's definitely stuff that I want to watch or pick up in the sale. Perfect Days is one.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that, but that's
Vendors?
that's another Wim Wenders movie that I just haven't seen yet.
Same.
If we're gonna skip ahead to stuff we picked up real quick, this one
Yeah,
was
go
on
ahead.
my list.
Yeah.
Let's just go into it. Like this one was on my list, but I texted you earlier because I was at my used store
Uh-huh.
and I found this and I didn't want to. I just picked it up because I didn't want to gamble and see if they had it in my store.
Totally.
But Cure.
Oh, yeah. I don't know much about this one.
Yeah, so I don't really know that much about it either. I've just heard high praise for this movie, and it's like a Japanese horror movie. So
What year is it from?
this is from '97, and I've
Oh, cool.
I've just heard a lot of really, really high praise for it. So I'm excited to watch this. I might actually watch it tonight when we're done recording.
Oh, sweet. All right, well, you've got a nice night planned out.
Yeah. But I guess before I go with the rest of my pickups, what do you have anything specific on your list that you're looking forward to?
Well, weirdly enough, I was in Barnes & Noble yesterday just wasting time because Lindsay and I were going to see The Materialist, which I'll talk about, but I was just perusing, and they didn't have this, but one thing that's been on my mind just recently with Brian Wilson dying, I saw that Dennis Wilson, the other Beach Boy that passed away, he passed away like back in the 80s, but there's this 70s movie that I'm sure you've seen the Criterion for, called Two-Lane Blacktop. Have you ever seen the case for that set now? I think it's like a car on the road. It's the cover.
Is that like mostly yellow and black or something on the cover?
Yeah.
I think I've seen that cover
And
before. I haven't seen the movie though.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either, but it's like Dennis Wilson, formerly of the Beach Boys, and another musician who I can't remember which person it is, but it's like two musicians in it, and it's for both of them, the only movie that they were ever in. And I was like, oh, this is kind of intriguing to me now. I always like a road movie, and I assume that it's a road movie, not knowing much about it. And it's also from the 70s, and it's like, so I was always a little bit drawn to it, but then reading about it recently, I'm like, I think I need to get Two-Lane Blacktop. So that's a little bit on my list right now. I don't have anything else that I'm like needing to get in the next one, but I always keep a wish list on my Criterion account.
Yeah.
That's like, it's a long list that I just chip away at. So
two big ones that I'll add to real quick and they're movies that I actually haven't seen, but Stanley Kubrick's oh my God, the name just escaped me. The big
Killing?
one. What's that?
Is it The Killing?
No, I have that one. We're gonna talk
Okay.
about that one. I don't know why the name just escaped me. It's a big one that we talked about before, and neither of us have seen it, I
Oh
think.
yeah, yeah. It's also escaping me, but I know exactly which one you're talking about. I have
It's
the Blu-ray
bothering
of
me.
it, and they did a 4K like over the last year or something, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Barry Lyndon. Sorry, I don't know
Yeah,
why I
Barry
couldn't
Lyndon.
remember that name.
I don't know. As
Um,
soon as you started stumbling over it, I was like, oh gosh, if he defers this to me, I'm like, I don't know. I was getting like test
yeah,
anxiety, like,
yeah.
uh,
Um, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I have a list on my phone too, so there's definitely more that I'm gonna pick up probably.
yeah. I mean, I usually take it easy because the sale goes on for a little while, and I'll just get a couple things. I
Hmm.
just chip away at the list every time and just not try to overwhelm Lindsay by showing up with something. She's like, what the hell? Do not walk in this house with that. So, did you see anything new since we last talked worth discussing?
I did go to the theater and see Bring Her Back. I don't think we talked about that last episode, did we? No, I
No,
don't
we
think we
didn't,
did.
and I also don't think I know what it is.
It's another A24 horror movie by the same guys. It's a duo of brothers. They also did Talk to Me, a horror movie that came out a couple years
Okay, I
ago.
remember that. I didn't see it, but I remember the trailers.
Yeah, this one was messed up, dude. It it's getting a lot of buzz. People are saying it's like the scariest movie ever or something, but I didn't really find it that scary. It was just kind of like disturbing and like it's one of those movies that just pisses you off. Like I was just angry at like the things that happened because like it makes you really feel for a couple characters and some bad stuff happens to some characters that you really care about. So
Oh, well, that's a bummer.
yeah. But I think I wrote like on my letterbox review. I like when movies do that though. Like if you care enough about a character to get upset, like I feel like the movie accomplished something. You know.
I agree with that. And you and I have always sort of been in the camp that we enjoy a darker turn.
Yeah, it's this movie's definitely dark.
All right, very good. Well, I'll talk about two movies that I made it out to the theater twice. I'm going to talk about the second one first, which I mentioned, The Materialist, which was directed by Celine Song. I don't know. Did you see Past Lives? I think we maybe touched on
I
Past
did. I
Lives.
loved that movie actually.
So this is the same director. I really like Past Lives as well. It was definitely on my top 10 of that year. Um, this I didn't like as much, although it seems like I should. Like this,
Yeah.
it's a they were kind of marketing it as a romantic comedy. I mean, maybe if you called it a dark romantic comedy, it's the humor is more observational, I would say cynical of the dating world. She's a matchmaker. Dakota Johnson is
Hmm.
the lead, and she's a matchmaker, and it's kind of this love triangle with Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans, but it's like I would say really critical of the idea of dating in the sense of these people that have like these crazy high standards and expectations of the people that they're going to enter a pool or enter into a pool of because like it's these people that are like, oh, the person needs to make 300K salary, be over 6 foot, and I'm like, well,
I
guess
feel like
what?
there's a reality show out about something like this, and I think Chris might watch it. But yeah,
I was just like, well, I'm checking zero of these boxes in terms of being a desirable. At one point in the movie, I actually looked at Lindsay because there was this joke about a guy who was a candidate, and you don't see him or anything, but they just describe him as a 5'7" depressed novelist who's unpublished. And I just looked over at Lindsay and I was like, is that my profile? So there is a dark humor to it. There's a dark event in the movie that I wasn't really expecting either, because that's not really the tone the way it starts out.
okay,
So overall, I did like the movie. When we walked out of it, though, I was a little like, there's some tonal transitions in the movie, and there's also some plot transitions in the movie. And I was like, I wasn't really feeling they were all the most seamless thing. Now, Lindsay was Lindsay also was kind of like liked it, didn't love it, but she totally disagreed with me on that. She felt like all the transitions were fine. So I don't know. I'll just say at this point, rapid reaction walking out of the theater, I did not like it as much as I like Past Lives, which I found to be like a heavily emotional movie. I was like, this
Yeah.
was like executed perfectly. But it's still it's pretty good. So I mean, in terms of like cynicism and maybe observation on the dating world, I prefer The Lobster. That's a little bit more my speed than this. But and then the other thing that I saw in the movie was of course the new Wes Anderson movie,
The
the
Phoenician or
The
something.
Phoenician Scheme. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay, with these titles, and you get what you're expecting anymore. I kind of feel like you know what you're getting to varying degrees of how much you're gonna like it, but you know what you're walking into, and when you walk out of it, you're like, yeah, that's what I expected. Though the noteworthy thing about this one, I think, and I kind of made a like criticism in my head as the opening credits were rolling because Michael Cera is in it, and I'm just like, I don't know, kind of. I guess it's unfair, but I was kind of like rolling my eyes, like at this point, like what is he really like bringing to the table with anything? And you know what? Completely wrong. He was the funniest person in the movie. I thought I laughed out loud at like a bunch of the stuff he was doing.
Isn't
Um,
it kind of surprising that this is the first time they've worked together?
Yeah, yeah, and he had that smaller part in Barbie, but it was I thought he was very funny in a small
Yeah.
appearance in Barbie, and then in this, he to me he was the funniest character in it, and I had this was definitely like more laugh out loud moments than Asteroid City for me. So
Yeah, I was kind of lukewarm on that on
yeah,
Asteroid City.
I felt like I liked it in the theater, but I feel like I also gave it more credit because I just wasn't really into the French Dispatch.
Yeah, those last couple I wasn't as hot on as,
Yeah.
a lot of his previous catalog. Speaking
And
of though,
yeah.
what do you uh do you plan on picking up the $500 box set?
So yeah, in ridiculous land, Criterion has announced that they're coming out with this giant Wes Anderson box set, and I believe that it's is it 10 movies all in 4K? I,
Yeah,
I don't know exactly the details of it. I own almost every single Wes Anderson Criterion movie, if not all of them,
same.
right now. I think I have all of them. I
I
mean,
think the French Dispatch is the only one I don't actually.
is that available though?
I think they added that with this box set, and
Oh,
I think they're also gonna
and
have it
Isle of Dogs,
separately.
right? I don't think
Yeah,
Isle of
those
Dogs is
both of them are
available.
being added. Yeah,
Yeah, so those are the two that would be new. But
right. Yeah,
all of the Wes Anderson movies that are available on Blu-ray for Criterion right now, I own.
yeah, me too. I mean, I think I have them all, if
Yeah,
not all, close
and
to all of them.
I just as we've talked about many times on this show, I've bought doubles, I've bought triples. Um, I do think that if I showed up with a Wes Anderson box set that cost I don't know how much, even if you can get this during the sale, I don't know what the deal is with the big box sets during the sale.
The big box sets are in the sale too, because that's when
Still
I
fifty
bought the
percent.
Wong Kar. What?
Still 50%.
Yeah, there's still 50%.
Oh,
I got the Wong Kar Wai box set for 50% off,
cool.
like during one of the sales, and I have thought about getting the Bergman box set before too.
Okay.
Um,
That
but
being said, Keith, if I showed up with a box set that included 8 movies that I already own, I feel like that may be a divorceable trait.
oh, God, yeah.
I think Lindsay would have a hard time with that one. But I do like the idea of upgrading to 4K is somewhat enticing, but I'm not married to it. And overall, I have stayed away from the box sets. I kind of I think have mostly stuck to the individual movies.
Mhm.
So probably not going to get it, but it does look cool.
Yeah. Oh, apparently it comes with like a book for each movie
Shocker.
too.
Shocker. Which I mean, look, I'd love to peruse, and whenever there is one of these things that I mean, I love all the extra content that
Mhm.
comes with these deluxe packages. So I'm always interested, and never say never, but I'm not. This is not something I'll be rushing into.
Yeah, definitely not a day one purchase. If I end up getting it, it'll be during the sale, but
Yeah.
we'll see. That wouldn't be until the next one because it's not even coming out for a couple months, I don't think.
Yeah. So are you enjoying a Herman Bloom today?
Sadly, I don't have any more A&Ws right now, so I have
Oh,
uh
you're boycotting them.
yeah, yeah, they decided to send us that mean email, so I'm going with Canada Dry and a little bit of rum.
Oh, wow. Well, you're gonna have to come up with a name for that cocktail.
Yeah, I don't know. You're gonna laugh at me for this, but I literally looked it up on Google before. I was like, I was like, does ginger ale go good with spiced rum? And apparently the consensus is yeah, it can make a good drink, and this is okay.
Was it just like, the AI or whatever at the top of Google
Yeah, it
that
was like the
gave it a
Google. Yeah.
I love it. So I did bring a beer for this episode. We're approaching the summer solstice. I mostly picked summer movies. I consider the Before trilogy to be summer movies. Um,
Yes.
so I brought the Sierra Nevada Summerfest refreshing summer lager.
Okay.
And at one point in my life, I remember you to be a little bit of a Sierra Nevada guy.
Yeah. I like the what is it like torpedo?
Yeah.
I think they have. I
The
like
first
that
time
one.
I ever saw somebody drinking one of those, it was you. So
Yeah, those are
um,
good. I like those.
I went on to. They have this like crazy. Uh, it's their secondary location, but in the Asheville area, this ridiculous, like beautiful campus style brewery. I mean, there's
Mhm.
this large outdoor amphitheater. The where the actual brewery is like this like looks like this like mansion like out of like an Agatha Christie novel or something. It's crazy. It's a really cool place. So we usually go there when we're down in the area visiting my family. But
Nice.
yes, so that concludes the beverage portion of this episode.
Well, moving on from that, real quick, can I show you my VHS tapes I picked up?
Yeah,
Because
please.
you've probably already seen most of them, but the second half of my pre-played haul today,
Oh, I love it.
I got Jason and the Argonauts on VHS,
Wow.
which is cool. It's
I'm
like
trying to think if I ever saw that.
I've actually never seen this, but it's all the stop motion effects are by
Yeah,
Ray Harryhausen.
it reminds me of what is it? Clash of the Titans, like
Clash
the
of the
old.
Titans.
Yeah.
He also did that stuff, and I've been
Okay.
interested in that stuff.
I have
So
seen the old Clash of the Titans.
yeah, very cool. You saw these two already, so I'll just show them real quick.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I got at my video game store. I got Freddy vs. Jason and 28 Days Later.
Yeah, pretty badass. 28 Days
Wait,
Later is a great movie that I haven't revisited in a
yeah,
very long time, but going to the theater more recently, Lindsay has expressed interest in watching
the new
28 Days
one.
Later and 28 Weeks Later in anticipation of the new
Right.
one. I
I
mean,
know. I'm pretty excited for to watch this one on VHS because I used to have this on VHS like back in high school.
oh wow.
And it's funny. This is like a thing in the physical media world that people are like have differing opinions on right now. So Sony, in anticipation of the new movie coming out, they're putting a steelbook 4K of this out.
Interesting.
But they shot this movie in like 480, which is
Oh
like
wow.
they used like digital cameras, I think, for most of it. I think maybe like the last 10 minutes or something, like the action sequence at the end of the movie might have been actually shot on film. But if you look at the comments on the announcements and stuff, a lot of people are like, "This is stupid. That movie doesn't need to be on 4K and stuff like that."
Maybe
Which
not.
I mean, I don't really care, but I'm excited to watch it on VHS. I think that'll be
Yeah.
cool.
Well, that being said, for those people, I had it on DVD, but I don't have it anymore, so I would buy it just to own it again.
Yeah, and there was that whole thing. This was like 6 months ago, maybe, where the Blu-ray and DVD obviously were out of print.
Hmm.
So those Blu-rays were selling on eBay for like hundreds of
Oh,
dollars
really? For the original, for 28 Days Later?
for 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later because for some reason they had been out of print for a long time.
Oh,
And I
shit.
actually considered I have the double pack Blu-ray. I considered selling them just because they were going for so
I'm
much.
gonna have to. I don't know if Brittany, my sister, still listens to the show. She checks in from time to time, but she inherited like my old DVD collection,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna have to. If you have 28 Days Later, the DVD, Britt, send it back up here.
Well, you couldn't. I don't think you can make a profit on it now because I think people with the 4K coming out, people aren't spending as much on it. But
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
I
I
have
should
one
have
more.
it, and knowing that it's out of print makes me want to have it though again.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be hard to find those still. I think though.
Yeah.
But the
What else?
last one, another 2000 staple for me at least,
Yeah.
was the Dawn of the Dead
So weird
remake.
that you show this because I was just. Have you watched the Apple TV series The Studio at all with Seth Rogen?
No.
It's like I just watched one episode with Lindsay just before I came up here. And you know
Mhm.
who's in the episode? Sarah Polly from Zack Snyder's
Oh,
Dawn of the Dead. Because she's,
who kind of doesn't have much of a career outside of that, right?
well, no, she's a director now. She directed
Oh,
that Woman Talking movie a couple years ago. And
oh,
like 10
okay.
years ago, she directed Take This Waltz with Michelle Williams and Sarah Silverman. She's only directed like 3 or 4 movies, but it like she's in the episode as playing herself as a director. And I was like, I like literally 25 minutes ago explained to Lindsay, yeah, she was in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
That's interesting. I think I might have heard that before, but I don't think I've seen any of the movies she's directed. But
Yeah.
yeah, that
So
was one that was like on constant rotation for me. I'm like I go back and forth on if I like the original more or the 2000s one. I know that's kind of like a hot take, but I really like Zack Snyder's take on
yeah,
Dawn of
I
the
think
Dead.
his is fun. I saw it in the theater. What year was it? Was it
I think
2003?
is either 2002 or 2003. I think. Well,
Can we?
the copyright on here says 2004, but that's probably the year that this VHS was printed. So
Yeah, I mean 2004 would make sense. I saw it in the theater, and I think it was my dad and my sister Brittany, and right from the opening sequence where it was really intense, we were like, "Oh shit!"
yeah,
Like, in a way that it doesn't really quite hit for me now, but I just was like expecting like the slow zombie stuff, and instead it's
yeah,
like the 28 days later, like running zombies, like intense violence, and it's like right in your face immediately, and you're like,
yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
okay.
It's definitely missing the like social commentary. I think that the Romero zombie movies had,
Yeah,
which is a big complaint that a lot of people have. I think like these are more just like
it's more like
kind
a
of dumb,
siege
just
movie, right?
action movies. What's that?
It's more like the siege movie,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when we were talking about Sinners and From Dusk Till Dawn. I feel like his Dawn of the Dead is closer to that feel,
yeah, yeah.
like just the idea of being like, you
Stuck
know
in one place. Yeah.
held up somewhere fighting
Uh huh.
off. That's more of the vibe I feel like than Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And with Romero's Dawn of the Dead, you have like there's even those like real goofy scenes. I guess there's some goofy stuff in the remake too, but there's like the one where like the gang of dudes come in and like are hitting zombies in the face with pies and like circus music is playing and stuff. It's like kind of silly, but
Yeah.
anyways, I like those. So
All right. Very good. Well, nice showing. I was hoping for this segment that I'd be able to show off my second sight, Nice Guys, because it's very close to being delivered, but it's not here yet.
did you get
But
that on the way?
yes, delivered via Royal Mail.
Dude, mine is still my order they placed like a month ago now is still like when I go on their website it says unfulfilled, so I'm probably not
Which
getting mine for a while still.
what thing?
The order from oh, you said second sight. I was
Yeah.
thinking vinegar
Oh
syndrome.
yeah. I'm
Um
not. I'm not expecting anything from them for a while.
yeah.
I mean, just no updates in my emails. I mean, when
Yeah.
it happens with them. That's the way I feel. But it,
Yeah.
I, I have so many irons in the fire all the time. Like I have Criterion. I pre-ordered Sorcerer on Criterion. We'll wrap on this to bring it full circle. However long ago, along with probably like every time I pre-order something, I'll add a couple other things, and it's like, months go by before this stuff shows up. So I never know what I have out there.
All right, Matt. So for this special Criterion extravaganza episode, like I said before, we decided to kill our new to us in the shrink wrap blind buy segment, and for this episode, we are going to give 10 Criterion recommendations.
Five
So
each.
5 each, yeah. And these are not in any particular order. They're just 5 recommendations from each of us. So take it away, Matt. What'd you pick first?
Yeah, real quick, can I just ask you, did you put any criteria around your picks? Like just anything that you were like, okay,
No
because
criteria. Yeah.
okay, I'll just tell you what my list is. I mean, like we said, it's because five. It's basically just five movies that each of us would recommend.
Mhm.
Um, but I did start with a couple things on the list that were like heavy hitters for me, like Inside Llewyn Davis, which is one of my top movies. I watch it every winter, but I decided to focus more on movies that sort of fit my in the mood thing. Like they're all sort of summary movies for me. So
Okay.
it
That's cool.
wasn't like it wasn't a hard rule. Most of these were movies that immediately came to mind, but I was noticing a little bit of a theme, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna stick with this. And not
Okay.
surprisingly, a decent amount of them are around the same era too. Um, so my first pick, Keith, was actually a very early blind buy in the Criterion collection for me. I loved the title. Sometimes that's all it takes. But then when I looked in the back and saw who the star of it was, I was like, yes, this is meant to be. Of course, I'm talking about directed by Haskell Wexler, who was a pretty famous cinematographer. But the name of the movie is Medium Cool. It's from one of the great years kicking off the new Hollywood, 1969, starring a young and very fly Robert Forster. That's right. Max Cherry from Jackie Brown as like just a young stud cameraman for like a local news station in Chicago. So, Keith, if you can imagine the production value, these are all of the things that I love. There's a lot of like real footage from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago around the time that was going on. So there is some like raw, real documentary style footage going on. Um, Robert Forster, of course, also little known fact, Keith, from Rochester, New York. How about that?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
This one
So
sounds awesome. I didn't know that this was about like a cameraman, so I need to add this to my list.
absolutely, you do, and it's a dark movie, and it takes a dark turn. There's also a lot of vagueness in the storytelling, and it you kind of see some of the poor side of Chicago too. He, it's hard to go through his whole journey, and we're just doing like little quick recommendations here,
Yeah,
but
these can just be quick. Yeah.
yeah. So I won't take it any further than that. But Haskell Wexler was a very famous cinematographer. I think he did some of the work on Days of Heaven. I think he did a little bit of work on American Graffiti. I'm pretty sure he actually did like some special assistance work on There Will Be Blood too. Like
Oh,
he was
nice.
like a famous guy from back in the '60s and into the '70s, but I don't think he directed many movies, but this, Keith, is a heavy recommend for you, my friend.
Nice. I'm definitely putting
Medium
that on
cool.
my list.
All right.
To be transparent, we showed each other our lists, but we didn't give each other like our notes on them. So I didn't even really know what this one was about. So I am genuinely adding that to my list now.
And it
Of
was an
ones.
early entry into my collection. It was one of the first ones I bought. One of the first blind buys and first Criterions I bought.
Okay, that's awesome. It's on my list now. All right. Um, First up for me is this was a blind buy for me as well. But this is an earlier Stanley Kubrick movie, and I
Ah,
picked
yes.
Killing.
Oh, the
So
aforementioned.
yeah, have you seen this movie or no?
I have, yeah.
Okay. So basically, for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's kind of like a noir heist movie. And it stars Sterling Hayden, who's also in Doctor Strangelove, and he's also in The Godfather as
Yeah,
Captain McCluskey,
the
I
cop.
believe.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
cop that gets shot.
yeah. So this one, I really like this movie, but upon this rewatch, I kind of felt like it was kind of simple, and I don't know if that was just because like I knew all the twists coming and stuff already.
Yeah.
Um, but it is really cool to see like early Kubrick. I think this was what his third film. Um,
Yeah, I don't even
af-
know that. It's definitely early. I saw one time, they used to have people do their top 10 list for Criterion, and I saw Mark Maron do his, and then, they would write a
Mhm.
little something about the movie. And he had The Killing on his list, and he said it's neat watching Kubrick learn.
Yeah, yeah,
something
for
like
sure.
that.
It's definitely doesn't reach the same heights as some of his like more well-known stuff,
Sure.
2001, and just
Shining.
his more well-known stuff. But I definitely really like this movie a lot, and structurally, actually, the end of the movie, or I guess like the final third of the movie, is really cool, where it's like it replays like the race like what as the heist is going through, and it
Yeah.
shows each of the characters like each role that they're playing in this heist, and it's really cool. It kind of made me think that this is probably like a big inspiration on, I don't know this for sure, but it feels like an inspiration on like Guy Ritchie movies a little bit.
Well,
um
and I sort of remember, this might be wildly off base, but I sort of remember feeling like that opening sequence in The Dark Knight with the Joker heist in the beginning of that movie. I kind of felt like I got a little vibes of that.
yeah, even the masks, you see the mask he's
Yeah.
wearing on the front too.
Right, right.
Only only one of the characters wears that mask, but
Yeah.
it does look similar, so that alone is like kind of,
Reminiscent.
I don't know if that was a callback. I don't know if, Nolan was doing that on purpose or
Sure.
what, um
Okay.
but yeah, it like, I'm sure you really like this movie too, right? I mean,
I
being like
did.
a
Yeah. I've still,
noirish.
same for me as you. It was a blind buy for me. I've still only ever watched it the one time, but I liked it when I watched it.
Yeah, this was only my second rewatch. I actually just rewatched this like yesterday or 2 days ago. But yeah, so this is a high recommend. I would say if you really like heist movies, like Heat, or
Yeah.
what's the Ben Affleck one, The Town?
The Town.
Yeah, those are like modern versions of this kind of.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah,
All
I
right.
like this
Good
one.
pick. Okay, moving right along. I am jumping from 1969 to 1975, so still in a very big place of comfort for me. And a movie that stars Warren Beatty, was written by Warren Beatty and Robert Towne, who of course wrote Chinatown, one of my favorite movies of all time. Which, quick sidebar, Keith, I just have to ask you this question because it came to mind. When someone asks you what your favorite movie is, do you feel like you have an answer?
Not really, no.
Same.
It's
And it,
really hard for me when people asks like what's your favorite like 5 movies or top 10 or whatever. I kind of have a little bit of an anxiety attack. I'm like, I
I
don't really know.
know. Me
Like,
too. It's horrible. I'm like, I have no idea. And they're like, what do you mean? You say you love movies. And it's like, yeah, it's overwhelming to be asked
yeah.
what my favorite movie is. I do feel like I need to just come up with a top 10 list for like all time. So that way I can just rattle stuff. I just need like preloaded answers.
Yeah. I mean, even
Um,
on Letterboxd, I'm constantly like switching out my top four because
yeah,
I feel
oh,
like
I do
people
that too.
people judge me based on my top four.
Well, I treat my top four like in the mood. Like right now, I have like all
Yeah.
summer movies up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I should
I like,
start doing that.
yeah, I just change them seasonally. Okay, so my next one is Shampoo. This was directed
Okay.
by Hal Ashby. Um, it's sort of a little whimsical, but still feels very 70s California. The main character is this guy named George who, cuts women's hair, but he's like a big time player. And but he's gotten himself into all sorts of trouble because of it. He's seeing multiple women. Goldie Hawn is in it. Warren Beatty's wife, I believe, still at the time, Julie Christie, is in it. And it's just got this very 70s California feel. It's funny. It's fun. It kind of has a little bit of that darker vibe to it too, just a little bit. So it's like this weird blend tonally. But for me, it works. Like I like that. And the character is based off of Jay Sebring, who is the haircut guy that dated Sharon Tate, if you remember from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Hmm.
That's what inspired this character, this kind of like
Okay.
cool, guy that cuts women's hair but has like this whole rock star vibe. Because Jay Sebring was kind of like that, or at
Hmm.
least presumably, or as legend has it. So that supposedly inspired the main character for this movie. So for a very matte summer vibe movie, I highly recommend Shampoo.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That one wasn't really on my radar, but yeah.
I'm not sure if you'll like it if you
I was
ever
gonna
watch
say, I don't
it,
know if
but
that one sounds like it's up my alley, but Maybe when I get, farther into my collecting,
Yeah.
whatever.
One day have it on the list, just way
Yeah.
down the list.
Okay. So my next one, this was also a blind. I feel like a lot of my criterions are just blind buys because I want to like dive deeper into like a certain director that I liked a movie from.
Absolutely.
So in this case, I picked Wings of Desire, which is
Yes.
directed by Wim Wenders, who also did Paris, Texas, which I
Yeah.
watched a few years ago for the first time, and I just like love that movie.
Absolutely.
Um,
Paris, Texas is great. I almost picked it for this, and but I was trying to keep stuff. I knew that you also really liked that movie.
mhm,
I was trying to keep a little bit less crossover, but that
yeah,
was I posted the Criterion posted
yeah,
today the stuff
I
for
saw
Father's
that.
Day.
Yeah,
Which
I
by the
never
way,
really
happy
thought of
Father's
that
Day.
as like a Father's Day type movie, but it definitely is for sure.
Well, it is a dad movie, but yeah, I didn't wish you a happy Father's Day at the start of the show, so let's say happy Father's Day, Keith.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Wings of Desire. If you haven't seen it, it's basically about this guy who's he's kind of like a guardian angel, but not really. He's an angel basically who watches over people, and I don't know if he's like documenting people's lives or what, but basically he's kind of like a guardian angel, and he starts to feel like he's like bored with being an angel, and he wants to kind of experience life as he has seen it.
Hmm.
And part of what sparks it is he starts watching this trapeze artist, this beautiful woman who's a trapeze artist at the circus, and I think the circus is like closing down and she's losing her job or something. Um, but so he kind of falls for this girl, and he decides to become human. He gives up his wings, becomes human, and then he goes around and he's just experiencing life. And yeah, I really like this movie because it's like it's very introspective. There's beautiful cinematography. Um, it's just one of those movies that like kind of makes you thankful for being alive. Makes you
Oh, I
think about
love
like
it.
all the little things in life. Like
Yeah.
there's even this character who's just talking about like smoking and drinking cigarette or drinking coffee and smoking. Yeah, drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes, and eating different kinds of food and stuff. And yeah, it's a very uplifting movie to me. It's hopeful. It has like a very somber melodrama feeling to it, I feel like, but at the same time it's uplifting. I don't know. You've seen this one, right?
No, I haven't watched it yet. Do own it. Have not
Okay.
watched it yet. One of the times that I logged Paris, Texas, I wrote something about just how impactful it was on me watching it. It's just such a visual experience, emotional experience. It's really a powerful movie. And I wrote something sort of over the top about that, of course. And
Mhm.
somebody commented on it as like, this is the way I felt when I watched Wings of Desire. And then
Yeah.
you talked to me about it too, and you said you really liked it. So then I bought it, but I just still haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. Definitely get around to watching it, dude. I mean, anybody who likes like he Vim Vendors has like a very distinct
Yeah.
feeling to his movies, I think. And this is just another one, and yeah, like you said, it's very emotionally impactful. So I
And
loved this one.
it
Yeah.
was remade, I believe, in the late '90s as City of Angels, I think, with Nicolas
Okay, I
Cage.
don't think I've seen that actually.
I also haven't seen it, but famously, song by the Goo Goo Dolls was in it. I remember that I saw the music video for it several times back in the
Okay.
'90s, and they would play on, you know, local soft rock radio stations that I would listen to frequently in that era of my life. So yeah, a lot of good connections to Wings of Desire.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
like these two, this and Paris, Texas, are why Perfect Days is like at the top of my list of
Yeah.
wants for this sale. So,
Yeah. The American Friend too is kind of a cool Wim Wenders movie.
okay, I'll add
It's
that one to the list as
Dennis
well.
Hopper is like insane in it, of course. It's actually another one of the the talented Mr. Ripley. There's like a bunch of version that Ripley character. There was a bunch of books that included the character or were about that character that have been made into several different movies, and you don't always know that that's what it is. But The American Friend is one of them, and that's kind of a fun criterion
Okay,
too.
okay,
Okay.
I'll keep my eyes out for that when I'm perusing the aisles.
All right, moving right along. The next pick for me is going to be a little bit disappointing for you as it's one that you owned and then traded in. So, not too much of a fan of. I am jumping way ahead in time, 10 years from Shampoo to 1985. And the movie is Smooth Talk with a young Laura Dern, directed by, I believe it's Joyce Chopra. Yep. And it was based on a short story by a woman named Joyce Carol Oates. And it's just about a young woman who is struggling with the challenges of being beautiful and becoming an adult. And uh, I found it to be it gets very intense and suspenseful as she's being pursued by this mysterious guy who just shows up at her house. Um, I found it to be like such a tense experience with a very jolt, with I guess a actually not very jolt, that doesn't make sense, but with a jolt of an ending. Um,
Mhm.
it's subtle. It's not like in your face. It's subtle but powerful. And also, Levon Helm from the band plays her dad in the movie, which was a little bit of a surprise, but a welcome one. So not often talked about. I think Zach let me borrow a DVD of it at one point or something. Maybe it was a Blu-ray. But that got me into it originally, and then when Criterion announced that they were putting it out, I mean, it was kind of stunning because I just didn't know much about it, but it was a must buy for me once I got it. So Smooth Talk once again, heavy recommend from me. 91 minutes and just a really powerful movie, and I really think incredibly well put together.
Yeah, in my defense, I did. I was in a different like mind space when it comes to collecting when I traded that movie in.
Yeah,
We were talking about this through text, and I
yeah,
have a whole list of movies that I regret selling or
yeah,
trading in. But it was like at the time, I think I've been collecting Criterions for like 5 years now or something.
yeah.
And back then I wasn't making as much money as I am now, and like oftentimes I would trade stuff in if I was like, I liked that, but I don't know if I'm gonna revisit it a whole lot. So
Understand. Yeah,
that fell into that category for me. I didn't dislike the movie. I liked that movie. It just was one that I didn't think I would go back to.
yeah.
But as you said, I did like it's a very tense movie and I liked it. So
Okay, real quick question for you since I brought up Levon Helm from the band.
hmm
I
he's
bought
the
some
drummer,
records.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I bought some records yesterday. One being The Last Waltz, like the actual vinyl for the movie.
hmm
Okay, I have other the band records, but I'll tell you in my record collection, I separate movie soundtracks and scores from like
hmm
rock albums. So, my question is, does the band The Last Waltz vinyl go with the band section or with the movie soundtrack section? Conundrum.
I'd put it with the band.
Okay,
Not
that's where okay, that's where I put it. All right. You and
yeah.
Lindsay agree.
It's not a traditional soundtrack and it's not a traditional movie, so
Okay. All right, very well. Then it's in its proper place. Thank you
I
for
actually considered putting The Last Waltz on here though because I do put that on
yeah.
just from time to time, just like especially like after a night of drinking or something. Like it's just
Yeah.
fun to listen to.
It's
But
the I mean I wrote this in my Letterbox review of it one day, so I'm such an ass just quoting myself from Letterbox, but it's the way I feel about this movie. It's the mecca of of music documentaries. I mean,
yeah,
it's number one with a bullet for me. So,
hmm yeah,
and yeah,
it's
it's
incredible.
such a great time to put on. I used to
Right.
have it on DVD. As soon as Criterion said they were putting out a 4K, it's like that's an immediate pre-order.
Yeah,
You know?
that's one of those ones in rotation with that and the Kill Switch Live DVD. Those are on heavy rotation at the East Washington house.
Oh yeah, understand. Okay,
All
let's
right.
move to yours.
Hard left turn from Killswitch Engage and The Last Waltz to 1948 Italy.
Oh,
I picked Bicycle Thieves because this is another just very emotionally freaking gut punch of a movie, or at least it was to me on
all
my
right.
first watch. I've actually only watched this once, so my memory of it is a little bit fuzzy, but basically it's about this guy who it's post World War II Italy, and he has a son and like a newborn,
Okay.
and he's been without a job for a while, as much as I can remember, and he gets offered a job to put up like posters around town or something. But in order to do this job, he needs a bicycle, and he had a bicycle, but he had to pawn it off because they were so poor. So his wife goes and pawns their bed sheets or something,
Hmm.
which was very symbolic of the time. Like if you had nice bed sheets, that was like a luxury back then, I guess,
Oh wow.
especially for lower class people. But anyway, so she does this. She trades them in to get his bike back so he can take this job. He goes to he goes to work at this new job. His first day, his bike gets stolen. So that's the setup, and him and his son are basically trying to track his bike down.
Yeah.
So you would think from that it's not like that emotionally like impactful, but the way the movie plays out, it's just so sad. Like this guy is so desperate to get his bike back so he can have this job to feed his family. Um, it's just heart wrenching, dude.
Yeah.
Have you
This
seen this one?
I
I don't remember.
haven't, no, but yeah, it sounds like it would evoke quite a bit of emotion from me. It also sounds like your version of this story would be trading in Venture Bros season 2 and Smooth Talk for a
Yeah,
bicycle.
I'm like, we need to do this podcast on Venture Bros. Chris, you need to trade in our bed sheets so I can get it back.
Yeah. Imagine acquiring bed sheets. I'll tell you this, nobody would want mine. I mean, the amount of grease and sweat for me, it's like, jeez.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, this is a really great movie, and this one comes up on a lot of people's list of like
Yeah.
staples, along with like 12 Angry Men and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Just like an absolute classic as far as like foreign films go. That I feel like it's kind of probably underseen at this point, but um,
Yeah,
I love
I've
this
definitely seen
movie.
it pop up on lists, so I'll add it to my wish list.
Yeah. This one though will make you sad, so just
But
be in the right mindset.
I'm totally comfortable with that. I'm totally comfortable with sadness.
And also it's also kind of thrilling in a way, I guess, because it's just very tense. Keeps getting close to like getting his bike back and keeps slipping through his fingers, and or he thinks he's on the right track and stuff. It's
It's it's
yeah.
like the Big Lebowski with that rug. You just can't
Yeah.
quite get it back.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, all right. You
Okay.
ready to move on?
Yep, yep.
Okay, so next for me, and we just get like further and further into my wheelhouse. So there was a Criterion box set that I don't own, um, but my next two movies were both a part of it, and it was America Lost and Found, the BBS story. Are you familiar with this box set?
I think I know it. Yeah, I think
It
I've heard
in
of it. Yeah.
it included like so BBS was like an attempt at like an indie studio back in like the late 60s as part of the new Hollywood. Jack Nicholson was in pretty much almost every movie that they did. Um, Bob Rafelson was a director of many of the movies. Easy Rider was one of the movies that they did, and I think it all sort of fizzled out. They actually originally got their funding by creating like the Monkeys TV series, I believe. And
Okay.
they were able to like make a few movies, but it kind of ran out of steam. I'm not sure how it all fizzled out, but there there was this era where they were making these movies that really contributed to the late 60s, early 70s rise of the new Hollywood. One of them being Five Easy Pieces, starring Jack Nicholson, of course, just completely out of control, charisma oozing all over the place. He plays a guy who came from a upper class musician family, but has ended up in uh, Southern California working in like I don't know oil rigs or whatever. And he's like again, just like the passenger, a completely disillusioned guy, just acting a fool. And um, he ends up making his way back up to where his family is in the Pacific Northwest, I believe. So there's like a midsection of the movie that's sort of a road movie. Um, Karen Black is in it as his girlfriend, and it's like she's a very sad story because he treats her like crap, but she's like really good in it. And he's really good in it too, of course. So, uh, yes, Bob Ravelson's Five Easy Pieces, starring Jack Nicholson. a heavy recommend, a yearly watch for me at this point. And 1970, 98 minutes. You love to see it. Everyone had a healthy respect for a tight runtime in a way that just no one understands these days. So yeah, 5 easy pieces. I assume that you have not seen that.
I have not, but I think I was watching some special features, or maybe it was like the audio commentary on the movie that you had me watch last year,
Oh
or
yeah,
not last year, last episode.
The Passenger.
God, dude, yeah. The Passenger, yeah, they were talking about that movie, and so it's on my radar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really recommend it. And I talked to you. There may be another Bob Rafelson movie with Jack Nicholson in it that I want to do for the show at some point. That I won't spoil right now, but when I say it again later, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
moving on.
Good. Moving on. Okay, so the next one I have here is actually a documentary. Um, and
Ooh.
this one I feel like we're recording this on Father's Day, which kind of bicycle thieves. I've realized that there is kind of a little bit of a theme here with these
Yeah,
movies. They're kind
that's
of
how
like
it
about
happens.
fathers.
This is how it happens,
So
Keith.
yeah, it was not planned, but they kind of all do deal with like fatherhood and masculinity and whatnot. But so Minding the Gap is actually this is from 2018, and originally I watched this on Hulu. Um, but I remember this movie was up for like best documentary the year that it came out,
Oh
and
yeah.
it lost to that Free Solo one, I believe.
Oh really?
Um, which was also a cool documentary. But dude, this documentary is way more emotionally impactful than that one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Have you
I
seen this?
I know I've seen neither documentaries that you're listing right now. So
Okay. So basically, this is just about three friends growing up, and each one of them has kind of uh, been a victim of domestic violence in one way or another. And they all have just like really rough childhoods. And it kind of, it, so the guy who directed it, Bing Liu, is actually one of the three main characters. Like
okay, fun.
he does. There's some interviews where he talks to his brother about the abuse that they endured, and he interviews his mother at one point. And then the other two characters, Zach and Kier, I believe is his name. Kier is a young black boy, and Zach is a white guy, and he at the beginning of the documentary he actually has his first kid. So it goes, the documentary spans a few years, like I want to say like 3 years maybe, but there's no like dates associated with any of the clips or anything. So like the only way to really see how much time has passed is like it'll show his kid every now and then.
Oh wow.
um but I just think this is like a super interesting documentary. It's kind of
Yeah.
about how these guys became friends, and they use skateboarding as like an outlet, and how they're dealing with the domestic violence and just their really rough childhoods and whatnot. Um, but it's not really about skateboarding at all. That kind of just like falls into the background. It's really just mostly about these kids growing up in like a poor town, and it actually takes place not that far from me too. I think they grew up in Rockford, Illinois,
Oh wow.
which is
Okay.
like outside of Chicago. I think
Yeah.
maybe like an hour from Chicago. Um, but yeah, dude, this one it hits hard too. It's another really emotional one, and it's
Nice.
incredible because Bing Liu, the kid who shot and directed all this, I want to say they started filming this when he was like 18 or 19,
Wow.
maybe.
Little bit of
Um,
a Richard Linklater vibe, huh?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, did he start really young or something?
Well, no,
I
I
don't
just
know.
mean like the idea of like something like Boyhood, like a story that takes place over however many years.
Yeah, it doesn't take place over that long of a
Okay.
time period. But yeah, I think this one's great. Even if you're not like a skateboarder, if you don't grow up skateboarding, I think this is just like a super, super like heavy documentary, and it covers more than just like the topics that they touch on is more than just domestic violence and stuff. It's Kier, the black kid,
Hmm.
he struggles with being like one of the few black kids who skateboards and stuff like that too, kind of, and like his friends kind of being racist without really knowing they are, a little bit in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but It's heavy, but it's awesome. I love this
All
one.
right, very good. I will definitely check this out. You have sold me on this for sure. It just wasn't
Okay.
as much on my radar. Like I recognized the cover and everything, but
Yeah.
I just didn't really know much about it.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting one because I think it first got put out on Hulu before Criterion picked it up, and I think maybe if it had won the Academy Award, it might have had a little bit more juice behind it, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it didn't win. So
Okay. Well, very good, Keith. My last one is a banger for me, and it's not going to come as a huge surprise to you because you know that I am very high on this movie, and it was also part of that America Lost and Found box set, and it wasn't released on its own forever, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting because I had Five Easy Pieces, I had Easy Rider. I'm like, I'm not buying this box set because I already have some of the movies. It's the Wes Anderson effect. Like they're not tricking me into rebuying this stuff. And then finally, they put it out on 4K, and of course, I'm talking about Peter Bogdanovich's The Last Picture Show, one of my favorite movies of all time, and it includes Peter Bogdanovich's sequel that came out years later, Texasville, um, which is so not nearly as great as The Last Picture Show, but it doesn't really try to be. It has like a completely different tone. It's like way more comedic. It's in color, even though the original's in black and white. It tries to be something completely different and is. I would compare the two movies to Chinatown, another Chinatown reference, and its sequel that came out years later, The Two Jakes, where it's like both Chinatown and The Last Picture Show, in my opinion, are like masterpieces that define an era of filmmaking. And then they have these sequels that are like kind of shitty but kind of fun. And and that's how because I like watching the Two Jakes too. Like I have a Chinatown copy that came with a Two Jakes, and like both the Two Jakes and Texasville to me are very like fun movies to put on, but insane that they even like are that there even are sequels to um, the Last Picture Show or Chinatown. But I think in a complete asinine way, I one time wrote a very pithy letterbox review of the Last Picture Show that was just like a bittersweet portrait of life or something. And but it is like and a young Jeff Bridges, a young Sybil Shepherd, um, just 70s filmmaking at its finest. Everything that I want from a movie. It makes me feel something. There's just this strong imagery, these great characters, a great setting that just you understand this town, you understand these people. So I can't say enough about The Last Picture Show. It's one of my favorite movies. And recently, Keith, someone asked me what my favorite movie was, and I said, well, it's not my favorite, but one of my favorites is The Last Picture Show. So there you go. That's the one I'm going out on.
all right. Dude, funny story. I don't think I told you this, but after I watched, so you assigned me, this is a tease to later, you assigned me La Piscine,
Yes.
and I watched that on, I think it was HBO Max.
Uh-huh.
And after the movie was over, all the suggested things pop up, and that was like the first one that popped up.
Hell yeah.
And I almost clicked on it, but I was like, I'm just gonna wait. But it's on my list. I think I'm gonna watch it, and then if I like it enough, I'll put it on my list to look out for.
Yeah, totally, totally. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where you'll be on it.
I liked Targets, and that was one that you assigned me, and that's also Peter Bogdanovich,
It
right?
is, but I mean that is very much like
Very different.
yeah. I mean that's kind of like an exploitation movie. I mean this is definitely more like you know, a drama.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that
I'm
I
not a
don't think
drama hater.
I'm not saying that. Here's the thing, Keith. I won't be able to live with myself if you don't like it. So
Okay.
no, I'm kidding.
If I don't like it, I'll lie to you.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was good. If your voice goes up, I know you're lying. Okay.
No, sometimes my voice goes up when I'm just real excited about something.
Okay, that's true. All right, I'll pay attention to that. Okay, your last pick is.
Okay. So my last pick is from director Akira Kurosawa.
Oh yes.
And this is So I assigned you Seven Samurai because that's just like a top tier.
That's
That
right.
one also just shows up on everybody's list.
Yep.
This one doesn't show up on as many lists, but I feel like this is like Kurosawa's number 2 movie that everybody likes, like loves, like Criterion people at least.
Yeah. I think there's more than that though, right? I mean,
Oh, he has a ton of
that are
he has a bunch of
Criterion though.
movies. Yeah, on Criterion,
Yeah.
yeah, and some of his other stuff. I've actually only seen this one and Seven Samurai, but I know actually this is what I was gonna say earlier is High and Low is
Yeah.
another one of his movies, and I think Spike Lee is remaking it, and
Yeah.
I
That
that
sounds
one's
right.
on my list
Yeah.
to pick up. I'll probably just blind buy that one just because I really want to watch it.
Very cool.
But anyways,
What's that
this
one about
is
though?
which one?
This one that you're doing.
This
What is
one,
it
yeah.
about?
I'm getting there.
Oh,
I'm getting
ooh, all right. Hold on. Take it easy.
there. So this is about. This is gonna sound boring, but I love it. So it's about a guy who works for the government. He works in like public works, like Parks and Rec type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a very bureaucratic, like planning type job, and he just lives like the most basic, boring life. But he finds out that he has cancer, and he just kind of has this epiphany and decides that actually it's been a while since I've watched this. I think he might have a conversation with a younger person which sparks this, but that and also, being diagnosed with cancer, it kind of shocks him into realizing like, oh, he kind of wasted his life in this boring job and he hasn't really accomplished much, and he's even like disconnected from his family.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he just goes on this couple day thing, or it might take place over a period of time. I don't really remember. It's been a while. I didn't get a chance to rewatch this one, but this one is also just another very emotionally heavy drama about kind of just like learning how to enjoy life and learning how to live life. I would say if you had seen Wings of Desire and you liked that, it kind of has similar themes.
Okay.
It's just like about life in general, kind of, and about not wasting your life, I guess. It's like, I don't know. I love this movie though, and I would say if you like that or other like Wim Wenders movies, maybe give this one a shot. It is kind of long. It's 143 minutes. So there is that, and it is in Japanese, but I think this movie is awesome. I feel like movies like this, along with I feel like it should be like required viewing
Yeah.
for anybody who works in like public office as well, because that's like kind of a big aspect of it is like all the loopholes and stuff that like happen when you're trying to get something done when you work in the government. But yeah,
Sounds
I
interesting,
don't have
man.
much else to say about it because I haven't rewatched it, but
Well, Kurosawa is the most important director whose work I've seen almost none of. So, I mean, his biggest
yeah.
influence on, so many directors. His works get cited all over the place as inspiring some of the biggest and best movies that have ever existed. So, you have pushed me out of the airplane with no parachute for this episode to start my Kurosawa journey. So I will continue it, although the 3+ hour run times are rough. It's a big ask.
Yeah, I apologize. But dude, was it we'll talk about
Yeah.
it later, but I asked Matt to watch Seven Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big departure from Seven Samurai.
I'm sure.
But it actually, the main character I think is played by the same guy who plays like the leader of the samurai.
Okay, he's good.
Samurai.
Yeah.
And he's a really good actor.
For sure.
I'll find his name and we'll bring
Yeah.
it up later. But anyways, that's
Okay.
Ikiru, I think is how you pronounce it, from 1952.
All right. Real quick before we wrap up, someone was feeling a little bit left out that they didn't get to do recommendations for Criterions as I was working through. So I let Lindsay have one pick.
Okay.
For this
Is she
episode.
coming in?
No, I grabbed.
Oh
her.
man, you got me excited. I thought she was gonna hop in.
Well, we'll find something. We'll find a way to work her in. She's got to build up her confidence though. She's very good at like, beating me down off mic, but like, it's a different story when you're coming in and the house
lights are on.
Yeah. But she really enjoyed one that was a blind buy, of course, for me, but I put it on a year or two ago, and it's another summer movie. The name of it is Summer Hours, directed by Olivier Assayas and
Okay.
um, French director, I believe, who I talked about not too long ago. Very prolific director, a lot of movies, but it's about three older siblings who inherit this nice house out in the country from their mother, and they all have you kind of get a little insight into their lives, and there's a little bit of turmoil and drama going on, a little bit of like before midnight stuff where it just feels like you're getting the real, kind of dirty details of relationships and life, and but a nice, very easy watching movie though too. Like there's a darkness and a heaviness, but there's a very summery, easygoing viewing experience to it as well. So Lindsay recommends Summer Hours.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I like Before Midnight, so
Yes.
I'll add
So
it to my ever-growing list.
all right. So should we get to the main bit?
All right, let's
That-
get to the main bit.
But that was our version, Keith, of I don't think we're ever going to get asked to do Criterion Closet as much as I'd
Yeah.
like to, you know?
Well, they do that. They do that traveling thing now, don't they? Or is that only in like L.A.?
No, I do think that they go to other places. Like I think they've been in like Austin, Texas, and stuff. So I
Okay.
do think they go around, but I don't think we're not on the short list to be asked to go do it. But boy, how many movies would we just be taking off the shelves? Like I'd be
Oh
walking
my
out of there
God,
with
yeah.
stacks.
Dude, the funny thing about that though is every time I watch those Criterion Closet videos,
Yeah,
I'm always thinking like if I was in there, I don't know what I would take because like
I know.
most of these movies I haven't seen, So like a lot of my Criterion stuff is blind buys. So the only ones I could talk about are the ones that are already in my collection. But the ones that I would want to take are
Well,
ones that I haven't seen.
I would definitely take ones that have had 4K releases that I haven't upgraded to.
Yeah,
Like I don't have the Silence of the Lambs 4K. I still just have
yeah.
the Blu-ray. So
I'm
that's for an example.
I guess I just think about it because sometimes I'm surprised that you don't ever really hear anybody be like, "Oh, I collect these. Like I have a bunch of them already, so I don't want to take." I'm surprised nobody says that.
You know who was like that was Carrie Coon. She's married
Yeah,
to
her husband, right?
Tracy
He collects or
Letts, and she's
something.
like, we own almost all of these already.
Yeah, that was like the closest thing I've heard to that
Yeah,
though that I
yeah,
can think of.
I know. Well, at least we got one cool one out there, Carrie Coon.
Yeah. Okay, Matt. Now that our recommendations are out of the way, I guess these could be another recommendation. We're going to talk about the trilogy from Richard Linklater, the Before trilogy. Take it away.
Yeah, I'd say another recommendation indeed. So I first experienced Richard Linklater's Before Sunrise and Before Sunset on HBO On Demand sometime around 2005. And it's one of the great examples of just not being ready for something. I didn't hate them, but I just hadn't refined my palate enough to understand or appreciate a 100% dialogue-driven cinematic experience. Coincidentally, Dazed and Confused was one of my most watched movies of that era of my life, but I had zero idea that these were all the same director. They would prove to be just too soon for me, as the next couple of years I would entrench myself in the indie cinema movement from the 90s, which I had been a little too young to experience as it happened. I would become heavily entrenched in Kevin Smith's View Askew universe, which kicked off with Clerks, famously inspired by Linklater's directorial debut, Slacker. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be until 2013, with the upcoming release of Before Midnight, that I would revisit the series. I heard Ron Bennington doing an interview with the Central Trio, Linklater and lead stars Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. Listening to them intimately describe their collaboration and how they all became integral contributors, developing the characters, story, and dialogue of the films had me completely enthralled. I rewatched the first two and loved them in a way I couldn't imagine some 9 years earlier. Before Sunset, in particular, I was really impressed with. You can tell with the original there was some concern about holding the audience's attention to pure conversation for a feature-length film, and therefore the characters interact with more people and the locations change frequently. It doesn't take away from the appeal, and maybe some would argue it adds to it, but I was really blown away with how Before Sunset is almost entirely 80 minutes of conversation between two characters who shared a special night almost a decade previously and were just now reconnecting for the first time. And my second time experiencing, I did not miss a beat. I was hanging on every word and interaction. Hilariously, in typical Matt fashion, despite being lured back to the series and excited for the release of the third movie, I missed it. Even though I had every intent to see it in the theater, I just dropped the ball. Sometimes it happens. It wouldn't be until 2017, early in my Criterion collecting days, when the boutique label announced a release of the 3-pack and dubbed it the Before Trilogy, that I finally experienced Before Midnight. And I loved that entry too. It continued the story and dove further into the complexities of relationships. I'm in awe of the storytelling of this trilogy. We have 3 films roughly 10 years apart from each other, where we spend a very narrow window of time with 2 people just talking, and yet we understand them so deeply. The creative team of Linklater, Delphi, and Hawk truly encapsulates the magic of cinematic collaboration that's given us a series that's truly special. So with that, Keith, yes, we both own the same Criterion. This is one of the crown jewels of my collection. Very cool packaging, very cool artwork on the 3 movies. And yeah, you can rewatch them very quickly. Like I said, Before Sunset is, I think, the
It's like
shortest one.
80 minutes or something, isn't it?
Yeah. Um, which we'll talk about them all in order. So the longest one is Before Midnight at 109 minutes. So they're all like pretty quick watches, between an hour and a half and 2 hours, uh, and very enjoyable, very, I think, relatable, and just really, when in terms of Richard Linklater as a director, just really impressive storytelling. So I'm curious, Keith, what is your history and experience with these movies?
So I definitely didn't see him until way later than you did. I was just looking up on Letterboxd to remind myself of when I first watched these, because I did log them, or at least the second one. The first time I watched it, I logged it, and that was in 2021. So I don't know if maybe you guys talked about it on your previous podcast or
I
what
don't
set
think
me off
so.
to it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
didn't think that we did.
I don't know, but that's like around the time that I started collecting Criterions, and I was watching a lot of videos of like other collectors and stuff, so I probably just had it recommended in a video or something. And dude, it hit for me the first time for
Yeah,
sure. Like, so I didn't bounce off of them at all, like, which is surprising for a movie like this. I feel like dialogue, nothing
yeah.
but dialogue movies, are pretty easy for me to bounce off of, but I loved
Now
it.
I mean I hit a point just shortly after trying these the first time, or trying the first 2, where I was in love with the idea of dialogue driven movies, and I really got them. But this was, I just wasn't ready for it the first time,
Hmm.
with the first 2 entries from these movies. I was in high school, it just
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah. I feel like in order to fully appreciate these movies, you have to at least be somewhere around the age of the characters, at least for the first one, for
Yeah.
Before Sunrise. Yeah.
Can I ask you, do you know, if I ask you to rank the movies, do you know how you have them ranked?
Um. Yeah, I think that I probably rank them in order of how they came out, honestly,
Okay.
and that's mostly because the first one, I think I give it extra points for being original and kind of like having like the hardest way of like proving the concept of what it is. And also it's just like, to me it's like the most hopeful because you don't know what the outcome is.
Yeah.
And the second and third one, while I do love them all, I think they're all 4.5 to 5 star movies
Uh-huh.
even. Um, I just, the second and third one, I don't want to say they get dark, but
Yeah.
it makes when we get to talking about the second one, at least I'll explain it more, I guess. But
Uh-huh.
it's kind of hard for me to root for Jesse when he like is married and
Yeah,
has a
yeah.
kid, and
I
maybe
get it.
that's due to the fact that I'm married and have a kid now, and it's just thinking about it now. I think
Yeah.
maybe when I watched it before, like a few years ago, I don't think that bothered me as much, but now it kind of bothers me a little bit thinking about how easy it was for him to just jump back into his relationship with Celine or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I get that. So I'm actually the opposite of you. I had him ranked 3, 2, 1
Okay.
in terms of my favorites, but I think you're probably in line with most people. Now, these are highly regarded movies. I think they're all
Honestly,
like, yeah, go ahead.
honestly, I don't know if I am though. I think critically 2 might be the most liked.
True. I do think two is maybe the most impressive to me, and I think we can get into that a little bit
Mhm.
more when we focus on that one. But I think most people enjoy one the most, and I agree that one is probably the happiest
Yeah.
one to watch. I do enjoy the complexity of the relationship stuff as it moves on,
Mhm.
um, because look, there's a lot of truth, and I mean, look, not every relationship goes down these incredibly dark paths, but I think that they really look at relationships in a way that hit with a certain amount of reality. Um,
I think objectively you can say I can agree with the statement that objectively the second and third one are better movies because of what you're saying right now about how real they feel and about how it explores like the challenges of relationships. Um and it's I feel like it's stuff that a lot of people can probably relate to like you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
So, and not a lot of like a lot of romantic, especially romantic comedies. I don't think you'd really consider these romantic comedies, but a lot of romantic movies don't go, or they just don't feel that as real as these do.
No, agree, agree. But yes, even the first one, which is completely way more optimistic and hopeful, it does still feel real though. It just feels like a
Hmm.
different moment. It's the positive moment when you're first meeting and
Hmm.
connecting with someone and having like a great night, which we all have memories of, and that is a really uh in intense, magical, just incredible experience. So, and I think the first movie captures that well. I guess I just enjoy the dark stuff because I'm a glutton for punishment. Now, I was saying these are really highly rated movies. I think on Rotten Tomatoes they're all like 98% or something.
Yeah,
Like
I think rightfully so.
they're all really well reviewed movies, and people love them. And critically especially, they
Hmm.
were beloved. So interesting idea. Linklater was inspired by to have the first story. He had a real life interaction. There's a lot of detail out there on it. I'm not going to go too deep. It was basically in 1989 in Philadelphia. He met a woman, and had an evening like before sunrise where they just spent all night hanging out in town, doing things together, and just had this really strong connection. And they kind of lost touch. And that kind of inspired him for the idea. And unfortunately, she ended up passing away in 1994. The Before Sunrise came out in 95, but he didn't. And I don't know if I have all the facts right on this, so I'm not. I didn't write a biography about this, so I don't know if this is all exactly right. But there was something where she was in like a car accident or something, and passed away, but he didn't know. And
Hmm.
when he came out with Before Sunrise, he had this thought that maybe she would see the movie and know what it was, and maybe they would reconnect, or maybe. And I don't know if he was romantically looking to or anything at that point because he has a wife and a family, and I don't know the timeline of everything. But just the idea that she would see the movie and know what it was about.
No,
Um,
you're right. I was watching one of the special features. I didn't get through the whole thing, but
yeah,
on the first disc, there's a special feature where he gives an interview where he does say that he was hoping that she would see it and they'd be able to reconnect at least. He did, like
yeah,
you said, maybe he wasn't looking for a romantic connection with her, but he was hoping because, like you said, at the time in the '90s, it was before Facebook and all that, so it wasn't as easy for people to just look each other up, which is part of the reason why I think the first one works so well too.
oh, totally, totally agree. And it works in this era where it's way easier now to the world just keeps feeling smaller and smaller, so it's way easier now to think about being connected to someone even on a global level. I mean, it really does
Mhm.
feel that way now. I mean, yes, it may be insane to try to like physically be in person with someone who lives in Europe. But is it that crazy to be like that connected to them? We talked about past lives earlier. I mean, you know,
Their whole relationship is through like Skype or something, isn't
right,
it? For most of it, yeah.
right. And I'm not saying that doesn't come with difficulties, but like it's not like you just disappear like what used to happen, you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
um, before all of these other ways of connecting came to be possible. But one of the things that's really cool about these movies and how it evolves over time is that collaborative process that I talked about in the intro. That Linklater, the original idea came from him, but as time goes on and these movies evolve, and even from the beginning, like Hawk and Delpy are contributing to the characters. They're all bringing things from their own lives and putting them into the characters and putting them into the story. Um, Linklater would write scripts for these movies, but a lot of pieces of it would be outlines, and then he'd get together. The three of them would get together for weeks and work through this stuff and try to make sure that the scenes were believable. Um, the first movie he did co-write with Kim Krisen before casting and then meeting with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy to work out all of these other things. So there was an original script that he co-wrote with Kim Krisen, who was in Slacker, who was in Dazed and Confused. She was the teacher. I don't know if you remember the teacher in Dazed and Confused, but she maybe has the best line in the whole movie. At least the one that I always love, and it's like the best thing to write on 4th of July. It's a, okay, guys, one more thing. This summer, when you're being inundated with all this American bicentennial 4th of July brouhaha, don't forget what you're celebrating. And that's the fact that a bunch of slave owning, aristocratic white males didn't want to pay their taxes. I love that part. I love when she says that in Dazed and Confused. It's so good. But that's the woman that Linklater worked on the original script with and created the characters with of Jesse and Celine.
Hmm.
But it quickly becomes after Delpy and Hawk are cast this trifecta that it would go on for the rest of the series. And I hit on it, but when I used to listen to a lot of Sirius XM shows when I was doing work that required me to like just be plugged in all day and like I would just listen to radio shows all the time and I would listen to the show Ron and Fez and Ron Bennington was like a really good interviewer and he had these guys in studio and you could just tell like the chemistry between the three of them and like how close of a bond they had from working on this series together and that like I said that's what got me sucked back into
Hmm.
this whole thing. So the first movie, Keith, Before Sunrise, Jesse and Celeste meet on a train. We're in Vienna. I think it was originally supposed to be set in like Sacramento or something, but they decided to set
Yeah,
it
I heard them talk about that in the special feature.
in
And
Europe.
yeah, I do just want to say I do think that the collaborative aspect of this is very cool, and it is
Yeah.
part of probably why this their relationship is so believable is because they had so much input. And Hawk actually talked about that a little bit in the special feature about how because he was like such a young actor, how it was kind of scary to him, but also exciting.
Right.
Which I don't know. I just think that's
No,
interesting.
I do too. I mean, it would go on to be something that happens more and more. Or maybe it's always happened the same amount, but we hear about it more and more. Like these directors who very much invite a lot of like improv and a
Yeah.
lot of indie filmmaking, like the whole mumblecore movement, where they'd really just have like an outline and then most of the scenes are improvised. I mean, it's just become more and more of a technique that's used. But
Yeah.
to get these people together and really like build the characters and they're all incorporating things from their own lives, um, it just comes through. Like you do feel that. Like everything just
Mhm.
feels uh really
It doesn't
real.
feel scripted. It feels, yeah, it feels like you said, it's coming from their past experiences. And
Yeah, and very genuine. And um it's wild to me. So I think one of the things like when I watched this the first time, can you imagine being so I don't know how old. I think they're like what, college age in the first movie. I
early
mean,
20s, I would
yeah.
guess, I think, yeah.
I just can't imagine being Jesse and like going to Vienna now. That was not something that was like
Yeah.
that was not on the
And by
docket
the
for me.
by the end of the movie, he runs out of money too, which is something we talk about as like an anxiety that I would have in like these older movies where people just seem to have this nonchalant vibe about traveling and
Yeah,
just wandering around, no money, no worries.
I
Like,
know. Well, that is one of the things about the Jesse character throughout this series is like, I mean, you got to give him credit. He's able to play things cool. He's not sweating like anything.
yeah. But I mean, it, take it another direction. He misses his flight home.
I know.
He has no money. He becomes homeless.
I know. He does
I
not.
mean, I guess you could get like a wire transfer or something. I don't know, but
I don't know. I mean, he's one of these people that I would have looked at this life and been like, I don't understand how this is a thing.
yeah,
Like, there were people that we knew collectively that were able to just be like, hey, I'm going to go do this and I'm not going to have a job and I'm not going to, I was always like, how is that? I don't understand how, what do you
yeah.
mean? Like, you have to have a job. And they're like, no,
No, yeah, we'll call J Bomb out right now. He was like a world traveler, but he did it smart though. He had like a good job, and he would just work and save up a bunch of
yeah.
money, and then take a long break.
Look, I was not considering him one of these people because his plan was always clear to me. I'm not saying that I don't know if I was like built for his plan, but I always understood his plan. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm talking about people who like I didn't understand them to have any money. And they're just like going and
I'm gonna go to Denver.
yeah,
Okay.
whatever. Like, those things would just happen. And it's like, so yeah, going to Vienna was not on my list. And I will say one thing that's really relatable about his story when he talks about how the reason that he's in Europe and he's overseas was to try to see his girlfriend, and he tells the story about how clear it basically was that she was like hooking up with other dudes or had another boyfriend over there, and that like she just
Uh-huh.
didn't want him around. I was like,
Yeah.
boy, this seems familiar.
Dude, one of the most painful lines too is I don't remember it word for word, but they're talking about that. It's around that point, and he says something about like, the most painful part is how you realize how little you cared about the people you broke up with, and that's how she's feeling right now, or something.
Yeah.
And that just it's like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I was never that person though. I mean, I always have been such a empath that like I just don't think it would always be very hard for me. Like
Yeah.
either side of the equation.
I've had varying degrees of
Yeah.
caring and not caring.
I
I
could
guess
see you just being like a complete heartless prick and just
not for every relationship, but
I'm kidding.
yeah,
No, I don't know.
some of them.
I always was very I don't know. I was a very empathetic person, sympathetic person too. Like I was just a very
Yeah,
you know me. I was an emotional mess.
yeah.
So I just I didn't relate to that part because I never had someone that I was just like, you know, well, go screw. I don't care about you. So yeah, they're making they meet on the train. That's the big part of Before Sunrise. I was about to say, oh yeah, they're making their way about town, but yeah, of course, the big thing is they meet on the train, and I'll make it clear, not going to go beat by beat through every movie, just going to hit some of the highlights. I didn't even write down any of the quotes. The dialogue in all three of these movies is off the charts, amazing. There's a ton of great lines. I didn't write anything down. It's just you have to just experience it, and if you think of things that you want to bring up, at least one line will probably come up for me in Before Midnight because I love the part of the movie. But did not write any of the lines down. But the big thing is they meet on the train, right? And the big
Mhm.
jumping off point of everything, this whole thing is this girl who he just met gonna get off the train and hang out with him? And do you buy that? And I guess whatever was originally written in the script, they changed over the conversations with Julie because she was like, I'm not getting off with this guy if this is what's being said. Like,
Yeah. I
and they,
think I think his move is pretty good. He does the whole time travel thing where
yeah,
he's like I'm a time traveler. I came from the future, and here, he talks about how there's all those people that you have met in your life that maybe you would like to see how that would play out, and he's like, I'm one of those guys. And that is a great move. Like,
absolutely. And it totally works. And like you, I checked out some of the special features, and one of the conversations they talked about this part and how they worked it out, and they were like, well, what would make you get off the train? And they kind of like really worked through a conversation until they all found it to be believable from every angle. And like that level of workshopping these scenes and these conversations and these moments that push something forward, that's the brilliance. That's
Mhm.
where you really see the final product take shape and be something that's believable. Um, so I don't know why this is a thing. I'm assuming there's some crossover, maybe philosophically, or maybe it's just Linklater was a fan. But this takes place in Vienna, and there's many references to the movie The Third Man in it.
Mhm.
Have you
Which I
seen the?
have on
Yeah.
DVD, but I only watched once, and I really don't remember it. So
So I've
the
only
only thing
ever.
I know is the Ferris wheel is
Yeah,
a big moment. Yeah.
that's true. And we're not going to go crazy with the connections because I too am not a wild third man. Um, I'm just not well versed on the third man. I've also only seen it one time in its entirety. It is a classic. You recognize that it's a classic the first time that you watch it, but I just haven't watched it that many times. So there's not a ton of stuff that I'm picking up on. The most obvious being the Ferris wheel, where
Hmm.
there's a crucial scene in the third man. They are also on that Ferris wheel. They have their first kiss on that Ferris wheel.
Hmm. Yeah.
So the two of them make their way through Vienna. One thing that is very noticeable about Before Sunrise that changes, I would say, in the series, there's a lot more things happening in Before Sunrise. Before Sunset, there's almost nothing that happens except the two of them
Yeah.
talking to each other, which is
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I think Before Sunset is great and gets so much, because it's like, how do you make a movie be that good? I kind of feel like they maybe wanted to do that for the first movie, but felt more pressure to be like, are people going to go with this? We need them to
Hmm.
like have more interactions with people, like random little interactions, and go to all these different locations. Whereas like in Before Sunset, like the locations matter almost not at all.
Yeah. It's a lot of them just walking down streets and sitting in coffee shops and
Yeah. And the
yeah.
conversations really drive it. So scenes of note in Before Sunrise, obviously the Ferris wheel we hit on. I would say when they're in that record store.
That's my favorite moment of
Yeah.
the first movie, at least, is when they're in the listening room, they're listening to some song. And a cool fun fact about that
Mhm.
is from the special features, that was the first time I believe that either of them had heard that song or something, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's
Kind of
cool.
cool.
I mean, it does seem like a genuine reaction. I didn't hear this anywhere. I didn't see this anywhere. But I was a little bit reminded of the end of The Graduate when they're in that um, little music room together, just listening to the song. Not
Hmm.
they're not saying anything, and they're just kind of like making looks at each other back and forth, and
Hmm.
it's like they're
Yeah.
feeling out the situation.
Yeah.
It sort of feels
I
like it's
would say
building.
that I would say that this one is like way more positive than the end of The
I
Graduate,
think that's
though.
fair. I think
I
that's
don't know
fair.
how you read the end of The Graduate, but the how I read the end of The Graduate is like not positive.
Well, it's positive, and then it's not.
Yeah.
It was that was exhilarating, and then it's slowly dawning on them that this might be a
Yeah.
huge mistake.
Yeah.
I do agree, but it feels similar. Like
It is. It is. You're right, though. The way it plays out, it's a very long. They spend a lot of time in there, and I don't think there's a single line spoken. Right.
right, right. Agree. So that's yours. I also like that scene quite a bit. My favorite little moment, little segment of the movie, actually, I love when, and something about this just there's a spark to it, and it just makes me feel a certain way. When they meet that, just I don't know if he's a homeless guy or, but like
The
whatever,
poet.
the guy that writes him a poem.
Yeah, that part's cool too.
I just love that idea that he's like asking for money, but he's like, well, I'll write you a poem and you can buy it from me, basically.
Yeah.
And then the actual poem it's kind of interesting and fun. Like, it
Well,
adds
he
to.
asks them for one word, and they give him a word, and what is it, milkshake or something?
I can't remember.
I think it's milkshake,
I
and
didn't write it down.
he weaves that word into the poem, and
Yeah, I think
it's
that's
good.
right. I think it is milkshake, and it's just a very sweet moment, and it adds to the overall like romanticism of the night.
Hmm.
And then the other big one for me is when they're getting deep into the night. So he's slowly running out of money, and this is becoming like, I mean, does this not like haunt you of like horrible first dates when we didn't have any money? Like, just
I mean, I was saying, yeah, it was like he's a few steps away from just being homeless now.
I know, and it's like, but the
Are
idea,
you gonna say? Can I guess what you're gonna say though? The part where he talks the bartender into giving him a bottle of wine.
it's great. I mean, it's really a great scene. It's a great moment. I actually believe it for some reason,
Uh huh.
even though it seems so unbelievable, and I can't see me pulling this off,
Yeah.
but I believe
I
it in this movie. I believe Jesse can
yeah.
pull it off.
I even believe that he's so good that he actually does talk the bartender into giving him. I feel like this could actually happen. Like
Yeah.
there are nice enough bartenders out there that this could happen, but I do think that he doesn't get that. He doesn't send the money when he gets home.
Yes, I think that you're probably right about that too. Me, on the other hand, I 100% would send the money.
Yeah.
But the idea of at a time in our lives, Keith, when income was, let's say, questionable at best,
Yeah.
the thought of being out with a girl for a long period of time where you're doing multiple things, you're like, okay, well, I only had enough money for like the pizza and the movie, and now you want to go
Yeah.
do something else, and it's like,
Yeah. I mean, pinball ain't cheap.
yeah, I
You're
only
playing
brought
pinball.
75 cents for the whole
Yeah.
evening. So that had me thinking of that, but yes, in a very cool move, they go into like this little basement wine bar, and he tells her to go get the glasses and he'll get the bottle, and he just talks to the bartender and he's like, "Hey, I only have one night with this girl. She's right over there." The bartender looks at him and he's like, "Okay, fine. I'll give you this bottle." Cuz yeah, the deal is Jesse's like, "Here, give me your address and I'll send you." I don't know what are you going to send a check? I mean,
Yeah.
it is a little weird. Now he never tells him how much the bottle's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of adds to your point that I don't think any financial transactions ever going to happen here. But maybe the bartender is just paying it forward. He just
Yeah. He's a
um,
romantic.
yeah. Well, and he says, "Here's to the best night of your life," or something like that. Because I mean, he got to look at Julie Delpy, just this cute French woman, and you're like, all right, here you go, man, have fun. And um, that is cool. It's a cool moment. I mean, you would love to have a moment like this in your life.
Yeah.
And they take the bottle of wine to a grassy knoll. And I guess it's not really revealed in this movie. Do we know we know that they kind of start making out and rolling around in the grass. I don't know that we know that they consummate the act, do we?
The way I took it was, I mean, it's not 100% clear. You don't see it happening,
Right.
but before watching the second movie, I was like, they definitely did it, you know?
Yeah, I would think the stars were aligning that evening. The sparks were flying. A connection's been made, and yes, I
It is
agree
a
with that
fun
too.
it is a fun back and forth though. Will they, won't they?
Hmm.
And I think that's why I like the listening booth scene the most too,
Yeah,
is because it's the same feeling of like I think the first time I watched it, I was thinking that they were gonna kiss. And the coolest thing about it is they don't actually kiss. It's just
agree.
like 2 minutes of them sitting there staring at each other, looking away, staring at each other, looking away. And you're like, are they gonna like you can tell that there's this spark between them, this connection,
Yeah.
but they don't actually kiss it, which it feels pretty real. I don't know.
Oh, I think so, and I'm sure they're thinking about it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
how many times in your life do you think like there was probably an opportunity, to plant one on a girl? Like
yeah. I
she
mean,
was ready for it, but you were like, you just chickened out or whatever because you're like, I don't know.
yeah.
You
I
think
mean,
I
that's
know?
that's that's probably why I feel like it's so real. I feel like I've
Yeah.
been in situations like this, and I'm just a bitch, and like, no, I'm not gonna kiss this girl.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, there was definitely times in my life where there were girls that were like, "Oh yeah, I had a crush on you. I wanted you to kiss me that night or whatever," and I was like, "What?" I was like, "That would have been great information to have back then." So like, I'm sure there was some of that going on, but the big, the real big thing of this movie and what makes this end up being a series is they make an agreement that in 6 months, which by the way, Keith, seems aggressive. He's got to
Yeah,
get back to Europe in 6 months.
yeah.
I don't think it's aggressive in terms of like wanting to see her again. I don't think that. I just mean, let's be pragmatic here. You couldn't even
Yeah.
get through one trip with enough money.
Yeah, I think saving up for another trip in the same year is going to be difficult.
I think so too.
But
But
also, very stupidly,
yeah, go
I don't
ahead.
know if you really call it like a plot hole or whatever, but just the fact that they, or not a plot hole, I don't know what the word is for it, but the fact that they don't exchange like their full names and
Yeah,
addresses and stuff, like they do address that.
they do.
There's a scene where they're talking about how they're saying, let's just make this a fun night. Like we know we're not going to see each other again, and then they decide to change their minds later, obviously, but that entire time they never exchanged their last names, at least.
I
Like it's a
know it
little
does
hard
seem
to believe.
idiotic, but I don't know. That is a little bit tough because you're like, these two hit it off this much, but then I guess Richard Linklater would say, "Well, I actually had an experience like this, so yeah, it does happen."
True, yeah.
um, so that's the thing. We're gonna meet back up in 6 months, and the movie ends, and you feel good. It's like I said, it's a hopeful movie. You feel like these two people had a connection, and I think, don't you feel like most people probably walk away from this first movie thinking these two do meet up again, or do you think more people are like, no, they were just young and naive, and it's really hard to make something like this work, so they probably never saw each other again? I think most people are probably more on the optimistic side at the end of this.
I would say so, but I do think it's one of those movies where you could have this conversation with somebody if it's like the first time you're talking about this movie with them, and you can realize if somebody's a cynic or a optimist
That's true.
by like say you saw this movie in that 9 year period before the second one came out. I didn't have this experience,
Hmm.
but if I had, I feel like we would have talked about this movie and been like
Yeah.
debating like do you think that they met back up or do you think they didn't? And for that 9 years you could be debating that until the second movie came out.
Right.
And I think the people that were on the side of yeah, they definitely met back up,
Yeah.
you're a romantic optimist, and the
Yeah.
people who would say no, they didn't, you're more of a realist, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I love this. And if the second two, if the next two movies never came out and it just everything ends with Before Sunrise, I think there's a strong case to be made that the whole idea of glass half full or glass half empty goes away completely, and that whole thing becomes end of Before Sunrise. Did Celine and Jesse meet back up in 6 months or not? And we don't even know glass half full, glass half empty anymore.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
is measured by Jesse and Celine 6 months later. Did they?
Well, now you can't have those conversations anymore because we know what happened.
That's right.
But
Yes. Unfortunately, the series continues with Before Sunset, and it is 9 years later, not 10 years later. It is 9 years later in 2004. We have our two leads back in the mix. We hit on it earlier, an 80-minute runtime, and I really feel like in Before Sunset they were setting out to say, all right, let's really do it. Let's really not have all of these little things that kind of break up the plot of the movie and have little plot points as much as like, hey, he's just there. It's filmed almost really in real time, right? Like he's got like an hour and
Mhm.
20 minutes or whatever before having to be at the airport. And we see this kind of happen in real time, and it's just their conversations. It's pretty crazy that it's executed as well as it is.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree, for sure. I mean, like we said, most of this movie is literally them just sitting in coffee shops or walking down these empty streets
Yeah.
and just catching back up. Like,
Do you want to know what my version of Before Sunset is, Keith?
yeah, go for
They
it.
tell me that I see. So I'm Jesse. I see Celine. I'm Jesse, but I'm a Matt version of Jesse. You know what I mean? I'm me, not
Yeah.
him.
Uh-huh.
I see Celine. We've had the same night. All other things equal, except this Jesse is a me version of Jesse. And I see her, and I'm like, wow, amazing. I can't believe it's her. And then I talk to the bookstore guy, and he tells me that I have to be at the airport in an hour and 20 minutes. And I say to her, I'm like, sorry, I don't have any time to talk. I have to go to the airport right now.
End credits.
Yes, I don't want to. I don't want to risk missing my flight. I'm worried about going through customs. Like I'm sorry. It was great to see you. Thank you for stopping by the bookshop. Let's try this again in 6 months. I know it's been 9 years, but I'll come back here in 6 months.
Well, also on top of that too, the fact that you're married and have a kid kind of throws another wrench in there.
Well, that is true. We don't find that out right away. So, yeah, that.
But I feel like I didn't notice this the first time I watched it, but I definitely noticed it on this rewatch. I rewatched them last week. But you do see, I don't know if it was I'm sure it was purposeful, but you see these little shots where you can see the ring on his finger.
Sure. I'm sure
But
that
like you said, they don't actually have that conversation until later on in the movie.
it's there for anybody that's paying attention, and I'm sure she would have looked, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's like a thing that girls do, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think people who are observant do it, aka not me. But yeah, he wrote a book about the experience from the first movie, and he's doing a book reading on it in Paris, and she lives there, and she stops by to see him, and it kicks off the movie. And then the rest of the movie is the two of them walking through talking, and the big reveal, a couple big reveals. One, they didn't meet up. She said her grandma passed away. It is revealed that he was there, and he's of course mortified by that, the fact that she wasn't. And in the time in between, he's gotten married and has had a kid, introducing a complexity here. So they do go through this movie. The conversations are great. One thing that came up, and I didn't go back to verify this, I Googled it, but I didn't see a lot on it, but I just have to say it to you. I swear he asks her in Before Sunset if she believes in reincarnation, and she says no. I'm pretty sure he asked her the same question in Before Sunrise, and she says yes. that might not be right. I didn't validate it, but like when it came up, I was like, I swear they have a similar conversation in Before Sunrise, and she says something different. Like I said,
I'm not remembering that, but that could be a thing where it's just showing how much they've changed, maybe.
it could be, or it could be just things that you say in a conversation that weren't really that meaningful that you don't carry with you. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, to me though, I think like 9 years ago, I was a totally different person.
Absolutely. And here's the other part, Keith. What I'm saying could not be true at all. I'm going off my. I did not verify. So I don't know if anybody else noticed that or thinks I'm right, or maybe next time I watch it, I'll verify.
Brittany, hit us in the comments with the corrections.
Yeah. So not as much milestones to break up the events here, right? Like they're going through. The big thing is like he keeps pushing off getting to the airport. Like that.
This movie.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this movie definitely has like a ticking clock factor to it, where you're like, all right, when are they going to finally get to like the deeper conversations? Because for the first like half hour maybe or 20 minutes, they're kind of just having surface level like basic conversation where they're talking about like politics and like what's going on in the world and stuff kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think when they start talking about like Jesse remembers them having sex, but Celine, I think she's lying, but she pretends like she doesn't remember them having sex.
It's revealed later that, yes, she remembers it well.
After that point, I think they start getting into deeper conversations about, like, well, we should have been together, you know? Like,
yeah. But he's really, he is talking about, despite that he's now married, he is talking about how he's always carried a torch for her, and he's always thinking about her, and he was thinking about her in New York City when he was getting married. She apparently lived very close to, and he thought he saw her, and it seems plausible that it was her, although while still potentially insane, because they were in New York at the same time. But it's just, things keep like ratcheting up, and he is escalating it. And this is where there's like complexity in the Jesse character that becomes even more so in Before Midnight, in my opinion, which we'll talk about. But he does keep escalating it, and you can be like, this is not a great move for a dude that's married, because she's going along with it. She came to see him. She is willing to go with the flirtation, but I do feel like he's the one that keeps putting feelers out there until she eventually succumbs comes and starts being like, yes, I remember we had sex. Women just say things like we don't remember that stuff, and we had sex twice in and it just starts to become more and more real as it's ratcheting up, and it all culminates with him going back to her apartment where she plays him a song on guitar, something about a waltz. Pretty good. I think it's a pretty good song. I enjoy it. But he is completely smitten, and that movie ends with her just being like, "You're gonna miss your plane" or whatever, and he's like, "I know," and he's like smiling.
I do think this is like the most perfect ending for a movie like this.
Yeah.
Like the very last line is her saying like, "You're gonna miss that plane," and then he says, "I know," or something like that, and then it just fades to black. It's just like the whole lead up to it too. Like they're in the limo or the car or whatever, and they're like, there's all these different points where he should have just turned and like went back to the airport.
Yeah.
And they just keep pushing it. He's like, "Let's get on this boat and go for this ride. I'll get the car to pick us up at the other side or something." And like all these things, and the clock is ticking, and I feel like this movie, I knew where it was going. I feel like you kind of get that sense. Like it's a little less ambiguous as the first one. Like I feel like I just had that feeling. Like I know that they're gonna end up back together because that's what. I mean, otherwise, what's the point, kind of, you know?
No, agree. And look, they have a chemistry, right? Which is another reason why these movies work so well, is they just have this undeniable chemistry. And I think I think Jesse knows it's wrong, and I think she knows it's wrong, but they do have this magnetic pull to each other.
Yeah.
I think that's clear, and that's going on, and he's made the decision. Now he says he's very unhappy with his wife. He obviously should not have married her and had a child with her, but look, it does happen, and
yeah, I think this movie again is another one of those things too, where the way that you see their relationship and the way that the way you feel about the movie overall, I think says something about you. And like if you're in a relationship, I think it says something about that too. Like if you think Jesse is doing the right thing, maybe that says something about you and your relationship. And
yeah, I mean, I guess if you ask me though, I would say it's shades of gray.
Definitely. And that's the beautiful thing about these movies too, is like real life is gray too.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
And it's not that often that it gets shown like this in movies, I think.
Oh, I totally agree. So we go another 9 years, and that brings us to the third movie, Before Midnight. And we're now in Greece. I mean, talk about beautiful on-location shooting. I mean, they're in Vienna and then they're in Paris, but this Greece experience in particular for me, I'm like, this seems like the life we need to be living, Keith. We need to be like vacationing to like farms like this, and eating fresh fruit off of trees and smoking cigarettes and drinking wine with European people.
Real quick before we've already started the third movie, but this is just one other like random thought that I had about the second movie.
Yeah, go ahead.
So why would you marry a guy who writes a book about a previous girl? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
I don't know.
I'm sure there's a lot of discussions. I mean, they kind of make the joke about, is this an autobiography? And he's like, well, everything's kind of autobiographical. And when you say something like that, it's like you can make these points about what is based on something, what isn't. I think in writing, most of the time things are based on something, and most of the time it's based on an experience. Maybe not a direct one, but one that you're familiar with. So more often than not, I think you could probably say that it's based off something. But he can also make the argument of just like, well, I'm a writer. It's just a story. It's not. So I mean, would it surprise you? I mean, Jesse does have some slimy traits too. I mean, I think he's generally a good guy, but I think that there's a little bit of sliminess there too. So would it surprise me?
That's another thing to debate about his character too, is do you find him annoying at all and like pretentious? I don't really think he's pretentious, but I feel like I hear that a lot online.
Yeah, I find both of these characters likable.
Yeah,
I like.
I feel like I just see that talked about this movie. Is like people say, "Oh, Jesse's like an unlikable, pretentious like dingus,"
and that's fine.
And I'm like, I don't really see that. I think he's just like a philosophical dude who like thinks about life,
Yeah, and that's fair. But I like pretension. So I'm good with it. Um, did anything else before I get
No, sorry,
into?
we can go back to the Before
Oh,
Midnight
that's
now.
okay. I'm just continuing the story a little bit. So this whole movie builds up to a crazy fight sequence at the end, and I only tell you that I only bring it up now because everything that happens in this movie basically feeds into that.
Yeah.
Starting with the opening where he's sending his son home who's been in Greece with them. So this is the son of the marriage to the other woman who we've never met. He's the son has been with them for a few weeks over the summer and he's sending him back home and it's really hard for him. And he gets back in the car with Celine. It's revealed that they have twin daughters together. At some point we'll find out a little bit of a reveal. They're not married. So they've had kids but they haven't gotten married.
Surprising.
Huh?
Yeah. Very surprising
Yeah.
reveal.
You
Yeah.
you do expect that you just traditionally you think that they're going to be married and then they're not. And I think that's intentional. Um she very much values herself as a strong, independent woman, and she definitely is. Now he
Yeah.
also might have reasons why he doesn't want to get married again. So they don't really get into that. The indication is that basically neither of them cares about being married
Yeah.
because they bring it up.
That's something we haven't really touched on yet
Yeah,
either. And I think it's probably because both of us being men, we kind of see this more through Jesse's eyes, I think, or at least I do.
yeah,
But I think probably one of the coolest things about Celine's character is how like strong and independent she is, which is probably why Jesse's character is so attracted to her because
agree.
like you find out in the is it the second movie you find out that she works for like a nonprofit or something
Yeah,
and she's I don't know, she's just like a very strong-willed woman.
definitely. And
Which is
she's
I don't know, I just think it's cool.
no, and she's sharp and
Like
she's
that idea.
funny, and it's a lot of the
Yeah.
Julie Delpy real life um, personality like bleeding into it too. And they say in a lot of the behind the scenes discussions or the special feature stuff, like both Richard Linklater and Ethan Hawke say that like a lot of the crass, funny dialogue comes from Julie Delpy when they're writing together. Like
I mean, yeah, she has a lot of like jokes about sex and stuff,
yeah,
and it's like, yeah, women like sex too. It's okay, you know. Like,
yeah. So the big thing though, and it was a little bit different for me on this last viewing. So Lindsay doesn't really like Before Midnight because she thinks that Celine is sort of portrayed as like just this crazy woman, which I do think is happening. But I think that Jesse is quietly a huge dick in Before Midnight.
yeah,
He's very nonchalant about everything, which I think is more typical of the guys to just be like, "Oh, who cares?" and "Oh, you're crazy because you're the woman," right? We've seen this in a lot of movies. We've seen it explored in a lot of things. I mean, we've seen people act like it. So,
yeah,
like, it's something that happens. But Jesse, from the second that he puts his son on that plane, it starts to become clear to us that like they've had this discussion several times. He's like, I'm missing my son's life. My ex-wife hates me. I can barely be a part of his life, and that's very painful for me. And by the way, Celine, it's kind of your fault. Like he is kind of subtly sliding that in, and she
yeah,
takes it that way. And there's a lot of digs. And one of the things that I realized on this viewing is there are several moments throughout Before Midnight where he has the opportunity to not bring it up again. And
yeah,
he does every time. Like he could
yeah,
bury this conversation, but he keeps bringing it back and he digs and she's supportive about it. And she talks about both sides of the argument. She's like very helpful, I think, in the discussion, but it's like he keeps digging. He keeps
yeah,
saying it again, and it's like, yeah, I know, but I just feel like it's ruined my life and it's ruined my thing with it. Like, obviously I'm being hyperbolic about what he says, but it's like he keeps bringing it back up, and
yeah,
eventually she explodes over it. Like,
yeah,
what do you mean? So, one of the things that's kind of different about this movie is they do spend a long period of time with another group of characters, all these people that they're with in Greece. And I guess a lot of those people are involved in filmmaking in different ways. The old guy was like a cinematographer or something,
Oh, okay.
and then
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yorgos Lanthimos' wife is the younger girl, the
Oh, okay.
brunette. So,
Okay.
and I think there's more. I don't know what all the connections are, but a lot of the people from that group are just involved in filmmaking in different ways, and that's not just necessarily acting, but there's discussions about romance, and it's like kicking off to this big night where they're going to go to this hotel together, and their girls are going to be watched by their friends. They have this long walk there where they get into discussions, and it's a very before sunset esque type scene. And then they start to have a conversation at the hotel and start to become intimate. But in the middle of becoming intimate, which she's topless, and this fight.
Which is an interesting point that I just wanted to touch on because
Yeah,
this I noticed more and I was thinking about it. There's no nudity in any of the other movies, right?
right.
And it's a very interesting choice to have her topless while they're having this fight. And it's not sexy at all. It's
Totally.
like it maybe for like 30 seconds it is when she first takes it off or whatever, but then they're having this argument and her top's just down, and it's like I feel like it adds to the realism kind of where it's
I
like
think
I don't know
so.
if you've ever been in like an argument with your significant other, like, and it'll just spark out of nowhere sometimes,
For
and
sure.
like it's yeah.
No, I know, and I think it's a way of doing it like this is like non-sexual nudity because
Yeah,
it starts in a place of they're being intimate with each other, but then they just go and it's like you don't even notice any difference, and it
yeah,
adds to the
exactly,
scene
yeah.
because you're like there is so enthralled in the heat of the moment of the fight that you're like no
Yeah,
one's even paying
that she
attention.
doesn't even care that, her top's down or
But
whatever.
they bring
And
us
it
into
also
their
adds to
journey
how comfortable. Yeah.
because the viewer feels that
Go
way
on.
too. It's not just
Yeah.
Jesse who feels that way. We're all like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, who cares? Because you're so caught up in
Yeah.
the heat of the moment of the fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. You were gonna say something else.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, so this fight goes on and on. It's basically brought on by, did I ruin my life by leaving my ex-wife and therefore abandoning my son to start this other life with you? Now he's never fully committing to that because they have kids, and he does keep saying, no, I'm in love with you, I love our daughters, I love our lives together, but he won't quit with the other thing. It's like, even if you feel that way, dude, you got to just let it die
Yeah.
somewhere. And that's where
I do want to say real quick,
yeah,
this is one of the moments where, or not even really one of the moments, it's just like a theme throughout the whole movie, like you've been saying, like it's like a thing that's been nagging at him.
yeah,
And the first time I watched this, obviously I didn't have a kid, I wasn't married,
mm-hmm,
but now I am married and I have a kid. And I think originally I was kind of more on Celine's side a little bit, but now that I have a kid, I just put myself in his shoes, which is what any good
sure,
movie makes
yeah,
you put yourself in their shoes, and you're thinking about what you would do, how you would feel in this situation. And I'm just thinking to myself now that I have a kid, how awful it would feel to know that you wasted so many years not spending it with them.
yeah,
And but so I was feeling really bad and thinking like that up until there's a certain point when Celine brings something up, and it's like a really good point, and I was kind of against her until she brings this up, and it's the fact that it's revealed that they actually lived in the States for a few
that's true.
years, right?
Yeah.
And then this is like part of the fight, and then it's like the with the custody battle, because he was cheating on his wife or something, like they would only get to see him like every other weekend or something. So it's like she brings up some good valid
Oh, for
points, like
sure.
very sound reasonable
Yeah.
things, and that's what kind of calms the fight down, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
um
Well, I mean, the fight ends in a bad place.
but I say all that really to just hammer home the fact that it, like, if you're willing to put yourself in these characters' shoes, you get sucked into these movies, and
Oh,
I get like emotionally invested, and I'm like pulling for one at one point and pulling for the other at another
absolutely.
point, and it's just like I don't really do that much with romantic movies, and this it's just a testament to this movie, I think,
So,
or all three of them.
last main point of the fight that I just want to make sure we hit on. towards the end, as everything's building to a crescendo, they both basically accuse each other of cheating, and neither of them
Yeah.
deny it. Like it is interesting, and actually, his part is I find his part to be hilarious when he because she's like, I know when you were in DC, you hooked up with that Emily girl. I don't care. I'm not even the jealous type. I hate jealous. Uh, but just be a man and admit what you did. And he's like, Emily, who? And it's like when she reveals that basically there was like messages back and forth between him and her. It is sort of like, well, the fact that he acts like he doesn't know who she is to me is kind of a tell that it
Yeah.
does feel like maybe something happened. But then
I
he responds by saying, I know better than to ask you about things that I know about, like when you went to visit your ex-boyfriend when he was,
yeah.
went to console him. And one of the best.
To me, I actually wanted to ask you
Yeah,
about this, like what your thoughts are, but I think like you're saying, like I think that they both did,
I
but I feel like I'm more positive on Jesse's part than
yeah
on Celine's. Like I'm pretty sure Jesse did it,
yeah.
but I'm not so sure about Celine. I don't know.
Hers is less, but it's just neither of them deny it. But yeah, when
Yeah.
he's like, and I know you at
He said
least
something about
knew it.
we don't want to be this boring couple that just, I don't remember exactly what he says, but he basically admits it, I feel like. Yeah.
But I love when he's like, because I know how your French ass works.
Yeah. That is a good
Yeah.
line. Is that what sends her off? Like,
Yeah,
is that where she leaves?
it's like towards that, and then she comes back and she's like, you know what this is? I don't love you anymore, and that's like mic drop. She goes out, and look, it's intense. It's a long fight sequence, and you do feel like this is the end of a relationship, like that. It's that kind of fight, and it's
Mhm.
been bubbling up.
Yeah.
But he goes out, and they're on the terrace, and they kind of have a little sweet reconcilement. You're still not sure if it's going to happen, but a little bit of the sweetness and the chemistry starts popping back
Does
up.
he pull doesn't he pull the same like future
It's
move that
similar.
like the same thing that
Yeah.
it is cool how it wraps back in on itself because if I'm remembering right, he pulls out the future like
Yeah.
future self thing on her, right?
Yeah, it's a similar type situation, but then they also kind of are making like some sex jokes with each other again too.
Yeah.
Um
But I do remember really, really liking that final conversation that they have because there's a point where Jesse's trying really hard to get her back on his side, and he completely gives up because she's just giving him the cold shoulder,
yeah.
and then she gives the final like, okay, we can be jokey with each
Yeah,
other
she
again and
opens the
stuff,
door back
right?
up. It
Yeah.
has that feeling like, okay, maybe the door is closing forever, and
Yeah.
then she opens it back up, and then that's kind of
It's a total roller
yeah,
coaster.
and then
You're like, are they gonna work it out? Are they not? Yeah.
and that's where it ends. And the last thing that I wrote down, which I'll just ask you, do you think this is a good place to just end the story with these three? Because there's always talks about doing at least another
Yeah.
one, maybe more. Um, would you want to continue at this point, or do you feel like this is a good place to just end this all?
I feel like I think about this every time I watch these
Yeah,
movies where I'm like, I don't really know. I mean, obviously they're past the 9 year point
sure.
now, so it would be different, but I mean, I'm okay with it ending how it's ended.
Yeah,
And part of me thinks that too because I feel like maybe this is just because I haven't reached that age yet, but I'm like where are they going to go with it? What I don't really
well
know what
then
a
I
relationship is like when you're in your 50s and 60s.
yeah.
Like could it be that interesting? Could they still be having these philosophical conversations over and over again? And maybe, I don't know.
So I think that it should end here. I used to feel like, oh, I could check back in 10 years. I'm now pretty comfortable with, I just think this is good. Like, this works as a trilogy. I think
Yeah.
they made three good movies. And I am an optimist at the end of this one. I think that there's been
Yeah.
darkness, there's been complexities, but I do think these three are gonna, or these two, yeah,
I agree.
are gonna stick it out. So I like feeling that way. I guess if there was another point to check in, maybe it's like when the girls are old enough and in graduating high school and moving on, and now they're like
Yeah.
empty nesters together again for the first time, and what that
Okay,
is.
so that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But another idea that I think might be a little dark but also
What
interesting.
if you were like
You
before X and it's them in like a spaceship in the future, 2,000 years from now?
Jason shows up, Super Jason. No, what about this? What if they skipped ahead like 15, 20 years and one of them is dead
Yeah.
and they meet it's like it's either say Celine dies, Jesse is just like depressed and like he's totally given up on love, and then he meets another girl on another train or some other way or something. I feel like that could be interesting because you don't get a lot of romantic movies about older people, and I feel like people would root for a movie like that, you
Sure.
know, where it's like, oh, this person lost the love of their life and they've totally given up, but somebody else brought that spark back to them, you know? What if, I mean, I think that would be a cool idea for a sequel.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine them doing another one without these two
Both of
characters.
them, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I just don't think that they would consider it.
Yeah.
It's something else then. You know,
Yeah.
but I think the
No,
idea
I
is
agree.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think we should probably wrap it up. That's the
Yeah.
Before trilogy. This was a long, but heavy recommend for a physical
Oh,
media
yeah.
person. You should own this
Yeah.
Criterion
Yeah.
trilogy, and
Also, you talked about how much you like the artwork. Just real quick,
yeah,
like I think it's cool. Do you read into like the layers here? So like, do you think the core is like the first movie, then it's the second movie, and then it's the third movie, like the outer layer where they're just like spread thin?
I did not.
Artistic interpretation.
I didn't go that far, but I'm open to it,
Okay.
Keith. I'm open to it.
Okay.
Um,
All
all
right.
right, so that's the Before trilogy. Why don't we quick break, come back and do a very quick homework and wrap it up.
All right. Cool. Sounds good. Okay, Matt, it's time for our homework segment where we assign each other a movie to watch. And this week, I wanted you to watch Seven Samurai because it's one of those Criterion staples, and this is our Criterion episode. So, what did you think of Seven Samurai?
Yeah, so this is one of those movies that it's when people are making their top Criterion lists, this is almost always on people's lists. And I had just never seen it, so I watched it. Of course, by the end, you're immediately like, yes, I see the influence that this had on so many movies. One that jumps out, we talked about it influencing George Lucas, but also Peter Jackson for the Lord of the Rings stuff. The Battle of Helm's Deep was like really inspired by Seven Samurai. The stuff in the rain from like the end of the movie, the end of Seven Samurai. Also looks really good. I was actually
Yeah.
surprised. I thought it might be a little bit tougher just with how old it is. I mean, it's from 1954, but
Yeah.
I thought it looked like pretty good.
Yeah. You know what I thought was interesting too? I don't think I noticed this the first one or two times I watched it, but it's in 4:3 too.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So it's like the square shape. Maybe they were just filming more stuff like that in 1950s, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it still looks great. Like that was one thing that stood out to me. I rewatched this morning actually, just wanted to rewatch it. But even though it's in 4:3, the blocking and framing and everything is like picture perfect for like
Yeah.
99% of the shots. Like they're cramming like 7 dudes or like more into every shot, and every shot is like visually appealing, like so good.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's just one of those, hey, let's take a simple, there's good guys and bad guys, but it's this long battle that takes over the course of several days, and they kind of have to, they're heavily outnumbered and they have to chip away at defeating the I don't know, what are they? The bandits? The bandits are the
yeah.
bad guys? Yeah. And
Yeah, I mean the action of the movie doesn't even take place until after there's an intermission. This movie is 3.5 hours long with the intermission. The battle doesn't even take place until a little bit after the intermission.
I
So like I
enjoyed
think the genius of this movie and why so many people love it so much is because of the interesting, unique characters, like the six samurai and then one extra dude. Like, in my opinion, that's at least part of
Yeah,
the
I was having a hard time keeping track of all the characters.
Yeah.
That's one of the
That's
things.
understandable because, being in a different language, it's hard, especially, their names are hard to remember if you're not writing them all down and taking notes and stuff.
Yeah. Now, the main crew is mostly like pretty distinguishable because they all have very like unique
Mhm.
traits and characteristics that set them apart.
Mhm.
Um, but there's a lot going on, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of little one-off sequences where different members of the group go off and do like a little part. So just like any war movie, it's
Mhm.
like hard to get your bearings with all of the characters.
Yeah.
Like I felt that way about like Black Hawk Down, you know what I mean? Like for the
Yeah.
first couple times I watched that movie, like I didn't it was hard to understand who everyone was, but then the more you watch it, the more you
Yeah.
know who you're with at any given time. And I think I
Yeah.
need more experience with Seven Samurai to get there, but it's right away. I mean, you recognize why it's such an important movie
Mhm.
in film history just in one viewing. But I was enjoying that I had the intermission in the streaming experience. That
They
was
put it
fun.
on the Criterion disc too. And I was thinking that it was going to be really short, and I was just on my phone for a minute, and I was like, "Oh, the intermission screen's still up. I better fast forward." The intermission on the disc is like 3 minutes or something.
Yeah, it was a long wait, but I watched the movie in two sittings because it's what
Okay.
like we said, what is it, 3.5 hours?
Yeah, it's 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that you actually watched it though. Did you like it overall?
No, I liked it. Yeah, I mean, I gave it like 4.5 stars. I mean, it is like
Okay.
it's like I was talking about The Third Man earlier. Like you watch it
Yeah.
and you're like, yes, this I know I recognize this as a classic movie.
Hmm.
Like it's
Yeah.
not one of those. It's just I'm not capable of watching this and being like, this is a 5-star movie for me right away because, again, I need
Yeah.
to like go back into it and like know who I'm with at any given moment and to be able to
Yeah.
enjoy every element of it. I think, but it's hard not to recognize that it's just such a accomplishment, and
Yeah.
it's been recognized as such.
Yeah, I don't think I would have given it 5 stars on my first watch, but I think I watched this before I even had a letterbox the first time because
Yeah.
I'm looking at my letterbox and I've only logged it once and that was today when I watched it
Mm,
again. But that's totally understandable. I think that I definitely liked it more on this watch now, remembering most of like what happens and who the characters are and everything, and I definitely picked up more on the stuff that's like not just surface level battle, the cool
sure.
characters and stuff. Like one of the coolest things is like they showed like right on the cover here, like the six circles represent the samurai, and
Yeah.
then this bottom one here is like the one character who's actually like the heart of the movie basically.
Yeah.
And he's like he was born, you find out, this is kind of a spoiler, but you find out that he was born a farmer, and then so he's like the glue between the samurai and the farmers. And it's like something that's kind of like, I don't know if I really picked up too much on like the emotional aspect of that the first time I watched it because I was more just wrapped up in, oh, these are these cool characters and there's some cool action and stuff. But really there's like a lot of social commentary and stuff, but it's social commentary that we probably don't really think about too much because, taking place in the 50s of Japan, it's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
I don't think it takes place in the 50s though, right? I
Well,
mean,
no, yeah, it takes place in like the 1500s or something, I
yeah.
think. But I
I
mean,
was like,
just
which
for like
50s? Not
when it
19.
when it when the movie came out in the 50s, like
Yeah, yeah.
even that distinguishing factor. But yeah, I don't know. I
Well,
definitely liked it. I gave it 5 stars. I really
yeah.
liked this
No,
movie.
I mean, I'm glad I finally watched it. I mean, there's so many more that I still need to cross off the list, in terms of like what are considered really important Criterion movies. But that was like, I mean, that was like number one of what I needed to. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that there's like that. There's actually one of the ones that I was not remembering the name of earlier was 8.5 is another one that I really want to watch.
yeah,
That one gets brought up all the time.
yeah, I have it. I haven't really fallen in love with it yet.
Okay.
I think I'm going to someday, but it's weird, you know.
Yeah.
It's
I feel
not
like
like
the three that I always hear about though are 8.5, Seven Samurai, and 12 Angry Men.
well, also the Seventh Seal. I always feel like Seventh
Seven
Seal
Seal too, yeah,
is
yeah.
up there too. I've never watched the original 12 Angry Men. I've seen the remake.
Okay. I haven't
So,
seen the remake, but I've seen the original.
oh, well, how about that? See if we switched.
How about
Would be
that?
good. Okay. Well, so that's Seven Samurai, and then of course I assigned you La Piscine, or I think it stands for the
La
swimming
Piscine.
pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, La Piscine.
I love that cover too, by
I
the
know,
way.
right? Like, geez. This is as soon as you see this, for those of you who are just doing the audio experience, it's just a thin man on top of a thin woman hanging by a pool sexually in very skimpy
Yeah.
swim attire. It's
That
like,
that that scene happens very early on in the movie,
yeah,
and I wasn't quite enjoying it.
I know. Well, like, look, I mean, this is talk about a fantasy life. I just love the idea of like these European people. It seems like all they
Yeah.
do is eat cheese and drink wine and smoke cigarettes and lounge by a pool, and yet they're always skinny. And even if
Dude,
they have like a little bit of a belly, it's like still not, what we know to be a problem over here. Like,
dude,
it's
you know what's so funny too is there's a conversation I can't remember the woman character.
yeah.
I can't remember her name. I should have written this stuff down. But she's having a conversation about the main character, and she's like, "Oh, he only has a month off work." Like, what the fuck?
I know.
Dude,
Yeah.
that is like a super European thing though. Like I have meetings at work with some of our team is like scattered throughout other countries and stuff in Europe and whatnot. And they're like our one of the owners will like make jokes like, "Oh, if one of them's not around, they'll be like, "Oh, it must be a bank holiday in like
Yeah.
Austria or wherever."
Well, I'll read you the last sentence of the description on the Criterion, and these Criterion like pieces are always great. What they write about a movie, but it just says a paragon of 1960s modernist cool, thanks to effortlessly chic clothes and a loungy Michael Legrand score. La Piscine dives deep to reveal sinister undercurrents roiling beneath its seductive surfaces. It's like, yeah, that sounds like this movie.
Yeah. Dude, I gotta say, yeah, I really liked this movie. I'm glad that you assigned it to me. I don't know if I'm putting it on my list of like ones I want to buy just because I feel like after you've experienced it once, I don't know how many times I'm gonna revisit it.
I
But
don't know. I'll tell you this, dude. I watched it once and I was kind of lukewarm out. Like, I definitely liked the vibe. I've
yeah,
always liked the vibe. No, like,
yeah,
um, but I was a little bit more lukewarm on the story and what happens. But then I
yeah.
rewatched it and I was like, you know what? I love this movie actually. So I'm just saying, I had
Yeah,
an experience where I liked it more on
yeah.
rewatch.
Maybe I'll put it on the list. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
it's lower on my list
no
though.
pressure. I mean,
But
this is just my substance and my style.
yeah, I'm trying to think of the other movie with Natalie Portman and Clive Owen that it kind of reminded me of, and
Closer.
yeah, it kind of reminded me of that
Yeah,
because there's like this tension between the two couples. I guess it's not
yeah.
it's weird though because the one girl is like the daughter of the guy's friend, and it just I don't
Yes,
know.
there's definitely some weirdness there.
Yeah.
There's like a
Um.
remake of this that Luca Guadagnino did.
Oh,
I think
really?
is it like called like a bigger splash or something? Hold on, I got to look up the title of the remake real quick. It has like the same people from his Suspiria movie. It's like Tilda Swinton and Dakota
Okay.
Johnson.
I'd be
Um,
interested in watching that. I like Luca Guadagnino.
I actually haven't watched his version of it all the way through. I've like put it on before. Yeah, it is called A Bigger Splash. It's from 2015. It was just before Call Me by Your Name, but it's based on the same idea or whatever. It's
Okay.
inspired by it. So
Should we explain the movie real quick for anybody who hasn't seen it, or do you
yeah, go
not want
ahead.
to do that?
Yeah,
I might need a little help with this because
yeah.
I watched it like a week ago.
Do your
But
version, and I'll jump in.
so basically, it's about this guy, and they're not married. This guy and this woman are at this house, and I wasn't clear on this. Is it her house or is it his house, or are they renting this house?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's revealed in the movie. I guess I was thinking that it was like some summer rental or something, but
Okay, so
they
anyways,
definitely
there's
have
this
money. These people.
yeah, these very wealthy people are staying at this like villa with like a really cool swimming pool, and like 90% of the movie takes place around this swimming pool, and La Piscine translates to the swimming pool, right?
Yes. Yes.
So this couple is hanging out there, they're on vacation, and the phone rings and the girl picks it up, and it's one of her ex-boyfriends, right, or romantic interest in some way. But
Yeah. Who's hung around?
so he also was friends with the main guy. So she, in a very 60s way, invites him over, probably knowing that it's going to cause some sort of tension, right? Were you getting that vibe?
Yeah, it's everybody's very nonchalant in this whole movie.
Yeah.
So everyone's very nonchalant about sexuality in this group. So
I should note too, the main character's, I don't have his name pulled up here, but he's the
yeah,
main character from Les Samurai, which is another really cool Criterion
yeah, it's this Alan
movie.
Dellon or something. It's spelled Alain, and his last name's Delon. So I don't quite know how
Right.
you pronounce it. Now he was a big name from this time
Hmm.
period who was in a bunch of European movies. He was like a Jack Nicholson for them. I mean, like
Yeah.
he was in like a bunch of movies and like well-regarded roles, but he's
Yeah.
just not as household of a name as Jack Nicholson for us.
Just like the epitome of cool though. Like
Yeah.
he's just like the,
Yeah,
yeah, just the definition of cool motherfucker basically.
absolutely. So casual about everything.
Yeah. But so the dude, the girl's ex, like love interest slash the main guy's friend, shows up with his daughter, and then it's just this really tense, like you can tell that he's trying to get back with the girl,
Yeah.
and the main guy is like trying to play it off like he doesn't care, and then at one point he just finally like is like F this, and he goes after the daughter kind of, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's
I
this
don't really
weird
want to
like
spoil.
there's this
I don't want to
weird like
spoil the big moment of it,
oh
but
yeah.
some bad stuff ends up
Mm.
happening, and then the whole movie kind of shifts, and it becomes this. I don't know. It's this like thriller almost.
Investigation. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to describe the rest of the movie without spoiling it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I
Normally I
enjoyed it.
wouldn't care about spoiling, but I kind of feel like I don't really want to spoil this one.
Yeah, this one is kind of probably underseen, so
Yeah.
probably shouldn't. But it has a very cool like 60s, 70s vibe to it. Like I
Absolutely.
said, kind of like a hangout movie, but not really. It's just, I don't know, your fantasy of
1969. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm glad that you liked it. I'm probably gonna watch it again like this summer. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Well, we should probably wrap here. This was another long ep.
All right. All right. Yeah, I guess that's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you can also find us on YouTube at High Volume Video. And I'm also on Instagram at High Volume Video. Matt, do you want to plug your Instagram, or are you trying to keep
Yeah.
yourself secret?
Well, we'll just do high volume video.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. We appreciate you. We'll see you in the next episode.